Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Tetracast. This is RPG Site's weekly podcast where we get the site staff together to talk about our favorite genre of video games. We have the usual crew here today. I'm the host. My name is Brian Vitale. With me, I've got Josh Torres.
Hi, hello.
Adam Vitale.
Hello.
James Glazio.
Hey, folks.
And Chow Min Wu.
How's it going?
It is our last podcast in October. By the time you listen to this, it'll probably be November, unless you're on us right away. And we've had a couple major releases in the end of the month, starting with The Divine Force, which, no spoilers, is going to be the headliner for discussion for this podcast. So a lot of interesting discussion to come forward on that. But we have a few announcements, some trailers, some games that we are looking forward to next year as the January-February timeframe continually more and more crowded.
Like so how you have a bit of subtitle for to refer to it. Yeah, like no one knows what the Divine Force is until you actually say what is it referring
to? Star Ocean. Sorry, like a Star Ocean 6. Are we going to call it that? That's not its official.
I mean, they call it Star Ocean 6 in Japan.
All right.
The number there.
All right, so yeah, I've had an interesting time with Star Ocean 6 so far, being that I have not had a chance to play it, but seeing how the PC port is working out. Luckily, it sounds like both James and Josh have been able to put some time into it, and I think a few others have it kind of on their short list. That'll be the discussion here, and maybe we'll do a follow-up discussion next week or the week after as more people get to it, because it just recently released. We had a couple other releases that are not quite in the RPG sphere, but we'll talk about them anyway, because who's going to stop us? I think James has planned on talking about Bayonetta 3, which is a recent release of pretty high profile, and a few other games that we've been poking at throughout the week. Star Ocean 6, Star Ocean: The Divine Force. We're just going to start with this. So I believe that Josh has had the most chance to go into this. I wanted to play more of this game before the podcast, but it took me like 2 hours not 2 hours. That's probably embellishing. It took me a long time, more than I thought, to compile the shaders for this game on the PC port, which supposedly seems to have a lot of issues. But I haven't had enough time to really poke at it and see what those really look like. But we'll go ahead and hand it off to Josh. Have you also been playing this on PC?
Yeah, I've been playing it on PC. My compiling shaders definitely did not take that long. Mine took like maybe 15-20 minutes max.
Maybe it was 15-20 minutes, but it just felt like 2 hours because I was impatient.
Yeah,
obviously that was it.
Yeah. So I mean, like both of us have pretty beefy PCs. So I guess we can't speak for like the general for the mass consumer who might have like underpowered PCs. Like I have a 3900X CPU and 3080 GPU. So like my time of the game, like PC port wise, performance wise, isn't pretty good for the most part. Like compiling shaders took a little bit of time, but after that, it was like it's gonna happen for everyone. They even like gave a warning on the Steam forum saying like, hey, first time boot up, we're gonna compile the shaders, right away, so it won't have like the Elden Ring problem of like trying to compile shaders as you're playing, because then if you didn't do that, if you didn't compile shaders like up front, like it'll have stuttering as it's trying to like compile shaders as you're playing. Like Monster Hunter Rise does the same thing of like first time you boot that up on PC, it'll take some time to compile the shaders on there too. So, I'd rather that be all up front rather than try to do like the Elden Ring solution of like trying to do it as you're playing, which is kind of really annoying. But other than that, just straight up front, performance wise, we talked about the demo of Star Ocean 6 when it released on consoles a few months back, and I did not like the console performance of that game at all. Like we talked about, it was
the demo was only on consoles, right?
Yeah. It was a very inconsistent 60 FPS that often dipped to 30 FPS
because of the VSync implementation.
Yeah, exactly, and you needed to have variable refresh rate to kind of mitigate that issue and so forth. So I was like, I was really crossing my fingers, like hopefully the PC port is okay. And thankfully on my end, I can't speak for everyone because everyone's PCs are different. But for me, it's been pretty damn smooth at 60 FPS with not a lot of frame drops here and there. It is way better than the console performance. I really was glad to see that running smoothly, like at the early areas where it would dip on consoles. And just generally, I'm like maybe 12 to 13 hours in, so I have about like about 6 playable characters, and it's been really fun. Like I don't think it's like a great game, but I think it's a really solid, good game, like a really fun time. And people throw around that this common term, this common phrase that we've seen a lot lately of like, oh, it feels like a PS2 era game, or this game feels like something out of the PS2. For better and for worse, like you heard that a lot of that talk when Soul Hackers 2 came out about how like that game structure, how that game, when people played it, how they felt like, oh, it feels like like an RPG I would play on the PS2. For some people that's good. For some people, they say it in an endearing fashion. And in some ways, people say, oh, it's like a PS2 era JRPG. And this game fits that bill too. And I say that very endearingly. Like I think this game has a lot of problems in its user experience. For example, when often like throughout the story, playable characters will go in and out of your party. Like say like since this game has that dual protagonist system that was in Star Ocean 2, you can pick Raymond or Leticia. Um, or Leticia. Sometimes like when their narratives diverge, and then when you meet back up and get those characters back in your party, like their accessories are auto unequipped. Like you have to like set accessories every time like people are out of your party, and then they rejoin you. And like that's annoying because you have to remember like what accessories did I have on this character? Or like another thing that's kind of bothersome is like whenever characters are like having banter out on the field, you can't open up like your map or your menu. You have to wait for their like banter to like finish for to pretty much do anything. Like you can go into battles, you can like use their Duma flying robot to kind of go around, but you can't actually like during that downtime, you can't like go like check the map and say, hey, I want to go here next. Or if I like while they're talking, maybe I should go rearrange some like upgrade like my character's skills, for example. Like that'd be a good time to do it, but it won't let you do that. You just have to wait it out, and it's kind of annoying in that aspect. So there are like definitely user experience stuff here and there, but in terms of like general gameplay and flow, um, it's pretty like solid. Like getting in and out of battles is very fast. They go by very quickly, and it's a very fast paced. The having that Duma flying robot, being able to like kind of use that as like a flight mechanic to like to dodge and to like kind of glide around and go to your next target like almost immediately, is really fun. And it works very very well. So there's like not really like a lot of downtime in battle once you start getting used
I have a
to.
silly user experience question.
Yeah,
So I had only seen the opening cutscenes, but as far as I can tell, there's no way to quick skip dialogue. You either skip the scene or let the dialogue play out. Is
it
it
depends
true
on the
or
type
did?
of scene. There are
Oh,
some scenes where like you have to wait for each and every like voice line to like play out. And then there are some like private actions, which are like conversations with your characters, where like you could actually skip the dialogue
because
to
usually
just
I'll just wait until I just read through it, but I won't let the voice line play it. I'll just skip to the next one. But I don't want to
yeah,
skip the scene entirely.
right. There are like mostly you'll run into like choreographed like cutscenes that you can't skip it, but then there are some times where like
Okay.
you engage in dialogue with characters out on the field, and that's the time that you can like skip dialogue during those conversations. They remind those like sections reminds me of like Star Ocean 5. Like Star Ocean 5 like to do a lot of like scenes where like it was still in gameplay, but you were like engaged in conversation. So it was like a unique cutscene with like camera cuts and so forth, which was really kind of made added on to it being like a very bland game, in my opinion, like very just dull, um, experience. But there's already a lot of like I like how varied each character is in this game. Like I thought I was gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna like I chose Raymond's story to start because I was like I kind of like this
Me
character's
too.
design and seeing where it goes. Um, and like your standard like sword fighter brawler type of character. No like, and it's nothing necessarily like crazy about him, but like if you want a standard like swordsman experience, you go with Raymond. But then like you have stuff like Leticia, She specializes like with her dual swords, and she's very like a spell swordsman almost. You can like imbue her weapons with an element to expose weaknesses, and she has like a lot of like very fancy like combo strings that you can put into her attack layout. So she's plays very differently. Then you have like Albaird or Albaird.
Albert.
Yeah, who is kind of, you know, he has like those dual like rings like the chakrams, and very much like your first spellcaster of the group. So like this, like in the first like, you know, hour or so, you'll like get to tinker around with these like these characters, but then you'll have like more interesting characters. Like for example, like Nina is like your healer of the group, but like the way that like she manipulates like character positions on the field is very interesting, because a lot of her skills are like is AoE based. So she has like buffs and healing that are AoE based. So like they really depend on like characters sticking together. But then you can learn a skill with her that like teleports characters nearer to her immediately. So like you can actually manipulate like the positions of like characters like on the go. And she also has like a really funny skill where like well, she'll like push at like an enemy or an ally like off of her, and like it'll actually do damage if like that the character or enemy that you push like impact each other. And it's like, and the skill's name is just called Bam in all caps, which is, you know, very amusing. Or like the character that I like to play right now is Elena, and her skill set is very cool because she has like this hybrid weapon that like shape shifts into different weapons like mid combo. So it like her weapon can turn into a gun, or it can turn it into an energy sword, or into a scythe, or into a lance. You know, and it's like there's all done like these are all individual skills that will just like meld together in one combo, and like that's really fun. And like and seeing like, you know, how you can experiment with that is, you know, it's very cool that like this game doesn't really like hold your hand in terms of like what is like the right way to play. It's very much like, here's a skill tree, but when you hover over like a skill, it'll show like a mini clip of what it looks like. But it's up to you to really like kind of connect the dots of like, okay, this is how I want to like customize my playstyle. um and that's really fun and gratifying to like, you know, to get that level of customization and freedom, and like without the game like holding your hand telling you what to do, which I enjoy a lot. And just and generally like I like a lot of like the kind of like the whimsicalness of the flavor text in the menus in this game. Like a lot of like the skill and item descriptions will have like really fun like flavor text to them. They're like, so it's something that I don't really pay attention to like in other RPGs, because like you'll have just standard item descriptions. They're like, they'll tell you what they do. It's like, okay, yes, of course, this is what they do. But like this game kind of does that thing where like it'll tell you what it does, but then like sometimes it'll have like a little like descriptor at the end saying like, for example, you'll get another mage later on, and one of their skills uh, is like a fast cast. So like there you can fire off their spells faster once you learn this. And like part of the item description or the skill description, it will say that like, you know, it shortens casting time, and then at the very end it's going to be like everyone loves like a motor mouth in their party, you know. So it's like
Uh,
so it's like,
I think
okay,
my
sure.
favorite thing about that one character is that the way that it works with the Vanguard system, you can start a spell cast, and then when you do a VA rush, it'll instantly finish the cast like after you're done with it, which is really cool.
Yeah, the Vanguard system is like the how you interact with like the Duma flying robot in battle. So like when you rush into an attack like with some of the characters, like that's called considered like a Vanguard attack, VA attack. Um and yes, and just everyone has like their own little like unique way they interact with that. Like with Elena, like once she does her VA attack, it instantly analyzes the enemy, so you know their strengths and weaknesses, elemental strengths and weaknesses, like once you hit them once within, that's like saved as well. So it's kind of that's kind of your, instead of like using like an analyze skill in battle, that's the way you analyze enemies instead. So it's more interactive and it's more free flowing. and you don't have to like spend an extra action like downtime in it. And like I think that's just a general. I think that's the general like fun factor in the game for me. Is like things just move and things just flow. Like your default run speed is very fast. When you're gliding around, it's very
one
fast.
of the very first things I noticed, just barely
Games-
starting the game, is like it's really snappy.
Yes.
Game's got that. I love when we first saw like the original footage. Everyone was like, "Man, it looks a bit like Xenoblade Cross," and it's like as they're playing, it's like it's got that Xenoblade Cross movement system too. It feels good.
Yeah, there's no fall damage because you're going up like to crazy heights, and as you're gliding around with the flying robot, you know, because there's like sometimes throughout the world there'll be like these floating like islands and platforms that you want to venture to because they might have chests or like upgrade points for this flying robot. So like you're really, you know, the exploration feels fun in it, and that's kind of the thing that I was worried about going into it. It's like, well, you know, you have these schools, like will they make like venturing off like fun? Like will they actually like design the world to make use of like being able to glide around? And it's like, yeah, they do a pretty damn good job with it. So I like generally so far, like there are like this is definitely like a game that like it is fun, but also know what you're getting into when you get into it. I'm curious, James. What how about you? How you been liking it?
I call it JRPG comfort food, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I'm sure I'll probably agree with what Scott thought, and I believe he gave it a 7, which it like. I think sometimes I say that there's some like games that I would personally give a 7 that I enjoyed more than maybe a game I would give an 8. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it feels like this is one of those games.
It's like the 7 spectrum is like 7.1 to like 7.9. Like
To be clear, Scott hasn't finished his review yet.
Okay.
Never mind. I got confused. But yeah, most of the review scores have been around 7s. I think I'll agree with that on paper. It's just yeah.
And I think Scott's shared a few of his thoughts on the game, like in our like staff Discord, but yeah, hasn't formally published anything. But if you're hearing all this talk about scores, about 7s feeling better than 8s or whatever, the text is always the most important thing, of course. So, and I do kind of agree on principle where like you can easily see the flaws in the game, and then you can't just ignore those because they don't bother you or whatever. But like even when I barely started this game, I saw kind of some of the same criticisms that were very evident in the trailers for it, which is a lot of the just visual presentation. The mocap's not that great. I'm going into it with the English voice acting, which I don't know if that's a smart idea, but the lip flaps don't match very well. But I will say that just the English like dialogue itself, just like the line reads so far, actually seem pretty good, and I'm actually kind of surprised on that.
Raymond's
when he's
dub VA is really good.
I've been playing with the Japanese voices. I like the Japanese. Like I don't think you really like lose on like whatever voice track you do. So it's nice that we have both. Like, you know, there are people here that are playing with the Japanese voice track and people with the English.
I think Star Ocean 5 voice acting was also pretty good. I mean, much better than 4.
Oh yeah, we don't talk about 4, but you know, but I think this game is probably like a pretty much a significant step up, definitely from 5. I don't think I've played 4. If I played 4, I don't remember much. But I think it's way better than 5.
I guess.
I skipped 5 because I had such a bad experience with 4. And why am I playing Divine Force? I don't know.
Because well, the main reason I bought it, because I wasn't originally intending on buying it at launch, was finding out just how much of a dire strait Tri-Ace is in.
Yeah, there was a report about their financial situation right before the game launched.
I know a couple of people that have picked it up for the same reason, where it's like, oh, well, I'm not sure if I'll play it right away, but I want to pick it up to show support, which, I mean, that's
fair, you know?
Yeah.
You want to keep good developers alive, so I mean,
yeah.
Especially developers that we have nostalgia for, like early on in the game. Some of the very first like items you get are callbacks to like Radiata stories. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. Nostalgia. Stop preying on me, like tries.
There's a fun thing about the game. Like there's a board mini game called Asoa in the game, and it's kind of like a modified, deeper version of Go. I'd say so. It's basically you have this grid, and depending on like the rank of like the player that you're going against, it could be like a 4x4 grid, a 6x6, an 8x8. So like higher ranked players will have a bigger playing field to work with. And you're placing these pieces on this board, and these pieces have like a point value to them, that'll take off HP of the opponents. So let's say like I have 3,000 HP, my opponent has 3,000 HP. If I put down a piece that has like 100 points attached to it, when I put it down, once I finish my turn, it'll do 100 HP damage to them. So you're kind of building up like your pieces as you play this game, and they all have their own like category types. Like you'll have a soldier type, which is like if you put 3 soldiers down on the board, you can get like an additional piece of any type on that same turn. You'll have assassins that will randomly take out an adjacent enemy piece that's like by them. And then you have berserkers that work best alone, like away from the pack. Well, they have like a high point value, but anytime an adjacent piece is placed to them, whether it's ally or foe, their attack value will go down. And so you're placing these pieces down, and then like once you position your pieces, you are the enemy. Position your pieces that you completely surround a piece of the opposing side. All pieces that are like within that zone that they can't escape from, like it's an enclosed zone, all those pieces are wiped from the board. So you can like make like really big plays that can like take out like half of the enemy's board if like you position properly throughout the match. So
How,
it's
how
actually
are
like
you
a really
incentivized to play the minigame?
so the main incentive is the pieces that you have, the SOA pieces, they can actually be equipped as accessories as well. So you get once you get like an SOA piece, you can use them both for that mini game and both as an accessory for characters. And some of the effects on some of these SOA board pieces are like really really good. Like right now, I have like an accessory that does like plus like 60% damage if like on back attacks. And like there's like another one that's like a big attack modifier if you hit like a boss's weak point, or like just general like big stat increases and modifiers as well. So like seeking them out is actually like kind of compelling as well. So not only are you like collecting these SOA board like figures for like to like just enhance your deck, but also because you also want to like get like good stat modifiers on your characters too. So they made a good incentive to like engage with that mini game, and like not like you can probably play the game fine, and if you like ignore it completely, and that's okay. But like I really liked engaging with that mini game.
You know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
Slightly? Triple Triad.
Yeah.
Triple Triad is fun on its own, but also because of this ability in Final Fantasy VIII to basically turn cards into items, there's also that additional incentive to play it, not just for the sake of the game itself, but because it kind of like feeds back into the actual main game you're playing.
Yeah.
In Triple Triad's case, you can get like items to form weapons and magic. You can get like magic for the draw system really early and so on and so forth. So it's nice to have that sort of feedback loop.
And also like the nice thing about each of the SOA board pieces is like they have callbacks to other Tri-Ace games, to other Star Oceans. You'll have like an Edge Maverick piece.
I heard Radiata Stories is also represented.
Yeah, some of the very first items you get those are the ones that I referred to very loosely.
Yeah, the pre-order like bonuses, like you pre-purchased it, you get like Lenneth, Lazard, Jack, and Ridley.
Valkyrie.
So Valkyrie profile and
I got the standard version, and I didn't pre-order, and I got those. Maybe it's like if you buy it within the first week or something like that, you still get them. So early adopter bonus.
So yeah, I mean it's just been so like I made a joke, like I feel like this is like a Yu-Gi-Oh simulator, like a disguised as a JRPG, because
I was actually gonna say that it sounded like Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I don't remember how Yu-Gi-Oh plays, but when you were talking about how the HP thing works, I'm like isn't that how Yu-Gi-Oh works?
Yeah, it's a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, but it reminded like I feel like whenever I go to like a new town, like I just look at my map to see like who can I like duel or in this town to like get their pieces.
Oh, she did Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, so like because after you like beat an NPC once, like you like basically like get the rarest board figure. So like you basically just like take their best card and like thanks nerd. And it's like it's pretty funny. Like it's weird. I think the one thing that like is annoying that once again another user experience problem with this system is there are ranks to a SOA. So like you'll start at like beginner and you want to like you have to progress the rank, you have to like challenge like an apprentice rank player, and once you beat them you're now an apprentice, and then after apprentice expert, so you have to seek out someone who's an expert rank, and then you beat them, you become an expert, and so forth. And like you'll know their rank because when you speak to them, and like it'll tell you before you like challenge them. But there's no indicator on the map after you've beaten them that says like, oh, you already like finished like winning against this person. So like you have to like kind of like keep like a mental note, or like keep like a notepad or sorts to like keep track of who you've beaten. And also it won't tell you on like the map like what the ranks are or the players are like scattered across the map. So like there might be like a master level 6 player at like at a early town that like you just have to remember. It's like, okay, if I want to like progress to master level 6, I have to remember that this NPC is here, and then I'll come back to them later to get to that rank, and so on. So that'll be something that like I'm sure people will guide out over time, and kind of notes saying like at this town you can find this person, this person, this person. Here's their ranks. But obviously it's early days, and it's just one of those things. It's like it's a little once again another just small tiny like user experience thing that's like annoying to deal with, but like it adds up, and everyone will have different tolerance levels about like how kind of bad the user experience is in this game.
The way you
the-
describe that rank thing sounds like like I feel like I've experienced that before, but I can't like place it. So there's some other game where you would like rank up in something, and then you have to like revisit old places to. Oh, now you're finally giving me the opportunity to play these higher ranked players, but I don't remember who they were.
yeah,
I wish
yeah.
I don't remember who it was though, but it's I know I've experienced something very similar to that before.
hmm Um, and but I'm very impressed with the scope of the game, because like there aside from like the wide open zones and fields that like we were talking about earlier, but like even the towns are like really fun to like navigate around, because obviously you have like the flying robot to glide around, so you're just constantly like immediately like going gliding up to rooftops and getting like the Duma points and like any of the like collectibles that are out on the field like in towns. And like it just there's like a lot of like incentive to like explore around, and like just there might be like some upgrade points like around the corner, and that's enough of an incentive to me to be like, okay, yeah, sure, let's go check out what's over here. And like they're structurally like built to like be intriguing enough to like explore to like higher places that are like far off, and usually they'll be like, yeah, there was something here that's really cool. um so I've been having a blast like playing this game, and I'm like it feels really really nice. There are interesting quirks about it that I'm still kind of like I don't know yet. Like for example, a big part of this game is like the blindside mechanic, and usually in Star Ocean games, like when you like get like a surprise attack on an enemy, or like you get them by surprise, it's like usually called a blindside. In the games, like in this game, it works the same way, but since you have like this Duma robot, you can like instantly like kind of dodge out of their line of sight and initiate like a blindside like that in the middle of combat. And when you blindside them, they're like stunned for a certain amount of time, and when you hit them while they're stunned, you get more AP to your total pool of AP, and these AP points allow you to like initiate combos, attack, and then once you're out of AP, you have to like wait like a second to like for them to fill up again. It refills pretty fast. It's just making sure that you can't like combo endlessly. So, but the there are some enemies like worms that do not have eyes, so that it actually accounts for this, saying there are enemies that you can't blindside because they don't have eyes. So like the anatomy of an enemy is kind of important.
That's
To
kind
a
of a
certain
cool
extent in
attention
the
to
game.
detail that they didn't
Yeah.
need to do, but they're like, no, the way this mechanic works in universe, this wouldn't make sense if this actually worked on an enemy that you couldn't possibly blindside.
I do also like how there's like a kind of wrinkle to that where larger monsters, like that Chimera looking thing, which obviously has a wider field of view, you can't normally blindside it, but if it's doing a strong attack, which is denoted by it having like a red, like kind of
Outline
aura around
aura,
it,
yeah.
or I don't know the correct way of saying it because it's
Mhm.
not quite an aura, but it's not quite an outline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
That means it's like about to do a strong attack, and since it's focusing everything on that attack, you can catch it off guard then and blindside it then if you time it right. I haven't managed to do it yet because like I'm a little bit overpowered with the pre-order weapon, but it's definitely an interesting kind of gimmick and
Yeah.
whatnot.
The thing about the AP is, and it shares like kind of like this Tales of Berseria DNA, is like if you get hit with all this AP that you've obtained, you can actually lose AP when you get hit with enough with a strong attack. You do get it back way easily, unlike Berseria. So it felt super punishing in Berseria. Unlike here, you can get it back pretty easily, pretty fast. But the thing that's annoying is that usually when you accrue like extra AP in battle, this will carry over to like other battles. So like say like you earned like 5 additional AP to your max AP to get a higher AP cap. And like that'll, carry over battle to battle to battle. But you will lose this extra AP if like you quit out of the game and load a save and you're back to stuck into your normal 5 AP limit and you have to earn that again just because you decided, hey, I want to like take a break and just reload my save. And like that isn't like saved that way. And also like when you rest at an inn, like it'll reset that AP limit as well. So like there's like weird like limitations and restrictions to it. Like once again, it doesn't take long for you to accrue that. But it is annoying when you like if you want to like gather that before like a big like boss encounter or something.
I know during the demo, there's a lot of people that felt really strongly about the AP system. Uh, Based on the couple battles that I did, I agree that it just seems like it does replenish really quickly. Is there some way that it's implemented, like actually when you're actually like into the meat of the game, where it is inconvenient to a fault? Or I just don't. I just saw a lot of people like absolutely detested it. I'm trying to understand their point of view. Is what I'm getting at.
I mean, the first like half hour of the game feels like dog shit without Duma. I think the game like really opens up once you get Duma and once it allows you to do blind sides of that extra AP. I think
Okay.
there are definitely some boss encounters that you have to be very very careful with because they don't have like a lot of unlike normal trash mobs that like you can get easily accrue AP again from. With boss encounters, it's a bit more tricky because like how James was saying, some of them you have to like watch out for like strong attack patterns to like get their blind side like because you can't like side them through normal means. Like there'll be like a big I imagine, as more people play and progress in this game, you will hear more and more and more about this infamous bird boss battle in this game. It is one of the worst like JRPG bosses I've experienced in a modern RPG in a while. It is such a dog shit boss. I will not
Is it called the Hollow Bird?
No, no. Um,
I hope,
I
I hope
understood that
somebody
reference.
got that reference.
I got it. I got
Somebody
it.
did. Okay.
But as once you see more people like progress this game, they will talk about a bird boss, and you will remember my words here. And I'm very interested to see when James and Brian get to this bird boss and how they deal with it, because it is the camera issues in that battle are so awful, and like the general mechanics in that like what the game wants you to do and what you're actually doing and the boss patterns for it are like it's I found my strat. I won't say what my strat is. I kind of quote unquote solved it through kind of brute forcing it, but it is, oh god, it is such a bad boss battle.
And that's before you get Duma. Is that why it's bad?
No. This is way after you get Duma. This is there's
that still
the this
sucks.
is yeah, there's the boss battle that introduces you to like the vatting attack mechanic, and that's kind of like your super move. When you charge up a meter, so you'll know it. You'll know it when you see it. So there's a little bit further into the game, but I'm looking forward to playing more. I really like the characters. I like the cast chemistry. None of them are kind of insufferable. They're all pretty cool in their own ways. And yeah, it's been just I'm very interested to see where it goes. Like I think I have I wasn't expected to like it this much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
my main
we-
issues with. Go ahead, James.
Do we want me to talk about the game on Steam Deck at all?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
So right now the game I would not recommend on Steam Deck, but it's only really for two major reasons. One, shitter compilation. Give it a few weeks, that won't be an issue. Because once the majority of the shaders are compiled, this game actually runs surprisingly well on Steam Deck with a mixture of like normal and high settings at 30 FPS.
Okay.
Just set on one thing I would recommend is that the way that the dynamic resolution scaling works, it's fairly aggressive, but on SteamOS itself, the 30 FPS cap is good in game. So what I would do is I would set the internal resolution to 1080p and then have it be prioritized frame rate, because it has only 3 options for the dynamic resolution: 25%, 50%, and 100%. So it would be 540p, 720p, and 1080p. The game can handle 540p on Steam Deck perfectly fine anywhere. In most places, it's fine with 720p. So if you have it set to an internal resolution of 1080p and have dynamic resolution deal with it, you'll be fine. You'll still get like 2.5, 3 hours of battery life, and the image quality will be better. So I'd recommend that. Compiling shaders isn't fun. That won't be a problem again in a few weeks. And you can also, if you want to be really tricky, you can install Proton GE and then use a launch command to use a synchronous shader compilation, which instead of getting the stutters, you'll just have like pop in. And that's a lot better if you want to deal with that. So like once the shaders are dealt with, or you do like the asynchronous compilation, performance wise, it's fine. And actually, I would say that it's a pretty good experience. The main problem, and I can't believe that Tri-Ace does not have a setting for this, is the font size, particularly for the menus. This game's font is so fucking small, even on like a PC monitor, which is probably the best case scenario if you have like a decent sized PC monitor and you're playing at a desk. That is clearly what the UI was designed for, and it's fucked up because it's like it's like Xenoblade Cross. Like when you play that, and it's like all the menu UI is super like tiny. And if you're like playing at a desk, it's fine. But if you're playing on the gamepad, it's an issue. Steam Deck, there is some text. Like you're going through like the items to figure out, okay, what do I want to use in stop mode? It's don't bother. Don't bother. It's like for like if you're gonna play it on Steam Deck right now, just do it to like explore, maybe grab some Duma points.
Play it to play a solo.
Yeah, or something like that. It's just I can't imagine that there won't be a patch to address that, or at least have an option to make things bigger. I don't know how long it will take. I hope it happens, because even outside of Steam Deck, like people are complaining about this. It needs to be fixed. But
I've heard people complain about the font size, both playing on Steam Deck or playing it on like they're playing on PlayStation 5 and on the TV. So yeah, it's unfortunate that that is still an issue that a lot of games will run into, because the games are developed on PC, but they don't have the option to make it conducive to play through on any other format other than at desk on a monitor.
Yeah, it's like I said, like it's a fun game, but there's like a list of caveats. For sure.
Kind of. It's like, yeah, all of us have at least played one other Star Ocean game, so we kind of know what we're getting
No.
into. No, you haven't? Okay, never mind.
Nope.
I take it back. James doesn't know what he's getting into.
What is
Before James talked about
Forspoken?
Steam Deck, there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up, but I don't remember what it was. So I'll just hand it back off to James. What was the one other thing?
And I know this isn't really fair to compare the two, but so far I'm enjoying this game more than I enjoyed Tales of Arise. So
Me
There's-
too. I agree. Actually, Boss battles aren't sponges, you know. The boss battles
Yep.
are like they actually like take damage, and like you feels like you're actually doing something during a boss battle.
So
And
I wasn't
exploration
crazy.
actually feels good.
Though, there's no. With the caveat, once again, the bird boss battle in this Star Ocean is worse than any boss battle in Tales of Arise. I'll give it that.
Man, I thought that was crazy. When I played the game,
So
all the
yeah,
bosses were to die.
so yeah, and I know Chow, we haven't talked about it on the podcast, but I know you've been recently playing through Tales of Arise. How do you feel about the boss battles?
They feel like they take forever to die, and I thought I just didn't know how to play the game properly. No, that's what I
Yeah.
thought at first.
You gotta get good.
Right? But I don't know. And now when you mentioned it, I was like, okay, I guess it wasn't me.
No, dude, I'm with you. I totally understand. Like a lot of people understand where you're coming from.
That's like the number one issue I see people talk about with Tales of Arise. It's like the combat system in Arise is so good, but then you get to boss fights and it's like, why does this take forever?
Yeah.
I agree too. Just chiming in, like if you figure out a boss's pattern and you're doing totally fine, and you're not going to lose. But it's like, all right, now time to repeat this pattern like 17 times to win. It's kind of annoying.
But,
Man, I wasn't expecting us to take our discussion about Star Ocean and the Divine Force as a chance to dunk on Tales of Arise. Which Tales of Arise I thought was fine. It was good. It wasn't bad.
It
It
has
was
very
just
good
fine.
production values, that's for sure. Like when I
Mhm.
was playing it, I was like wondering, man, if only Nintendo can port Xenoblade 3 to PC, so I can run like this.
only if Nintendo can port like any fucking thing to anything else. I swear to God, I'm thinking like, when's Astral Chain gonna come to other platforms? When's
Speaking of Platinum games that are Switch exclusive,
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on to Bayonetta 3, since I think we're gonna have a larger discussion there, I guess just want to make sure that we tie Star Ocean in a bow. Well, I guess it doesn't need to be completely tie up loose ends here because more of us, like I just installed the game this morning. I'm planning on playing it, and I think more of us are planning to play it before we get to the end of the year. But just want to make sure that everyone got their discussion points in for experience so far on Star Ocean: The Divine Force.
I pretty much said what I needed to say for initial impressions. It's a very like I really dig it a lot. I think it's a personal like James was saying JRPG comfort food. It's something I just like that it doesn't waste your time. You get to like playing it very fast and you play and like gameplay it goes by so fast in that game. It's a very fast paced RPG that like I don't things are just constantly moving and like the narrative itself, the story itself is like interesting. Like I was like, oh, okay, I can there are like the direction that the story is moving like makes me motivated to want to see more, and that's like pretty high praise from like the recent Star Ocean games, really.
And that reminds me that the thing I wanted to say that I forgot about was you had mentioned that you really enjoy the cast and the interaction. And on top of the fact that you think that they all have a unique play style. Like Star Ocean 4, and Adam has said this multiple times, like is a fun game to play if you literally skip every scene. So if Star Ocean 6 is on par with that, only you don't feel obligated to skip every scene, like that's a win for all of us. So if you want production values, I guess go play Tales of Arise. If you don't care about that, then go play Star Ocean Divine Force. But I'm taking your word on it.
Yeah, there's definitely a game that's like it's there were some real production deadlines that have to be met, and you see the rough edges, and like for me, I'm used to that, so I'm like, okay, sure, like it's annoying, but I'm I played a video game, I can deal with it. So yeah, other than that, yeah, I can't wait to play more after this.
And with that, we'll go on to the game that James was transitioning into for the next discussion on our podcast, which is not an RPG, but we're going to talk about it anyway. And that is Bayonetta 3, which also released just a couple days ago. So I'll just hand it off to James because I have not played a Bayonetta game and I don't know much about it. So I'm interested to hear what James's takeaway on it.
Surely this will come to PC and it'll have amazing performance, just like on the Switch, right?
God.
When we see 2 first.
This game, locked 60 FPS isn't even a dream. It's just like this game's performance isn't great. Digital Foundry already did their thing, I believe. Like docked mode, it's like a dynamic 10p upscaled to 1080p,
Okay.
and the actual frame rate is all over the place. Like there's definitely moments where it drops pretty heavily, and it's almost never a lock 60. Like I'd say that outside of like the loading screens, it's not a lock 60, and there's many cases where
I
it's
love
dropping
60
down to
FPS
low
loading
40s
screens.
or 30s. I enjoyed it. Now,
Mhm.
now just to be clear, this game came out yesterday. I've already beat it. Um,
How long did it take you?
11 and a half hours.
Okay.
I kind of did rush it though. A lot of so I'm so sorry, Josh.
Uh-huh.
The game's levels have that openish astral chain level design.
Wait, what? They're not just like stages, like the first and second one?
They are, but there's more to it, and there's like, yeah, I mean, even in Bayonetta 1 and 2, there was stuff to explore, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah, like the town, like the train raid station into that town.
yeah, but there's way more exploration than this time, to the point where it's like you have these you really have to look to find like the like additional non-required verses, and then
Oh, okay.
every stage has 3 tiers of blood that are attached to different like which familiar like animals. Like there's a frog, there's a crow, and there's a cat, and you can like look for them in each stage. And like the frog, you have to listen for like a ribbit, and then like it basically starts like ribbiting faster and faster the closer you get to it, and then you just pick up the tier
It,
that
does
way. But
it feel like a tightly like designed game? Like, is this like a good or bad thing? Because I like the thing that I like about Bayonetta is like, sure, there are fights that you could miss in the game, but like it's very easy to replay those stages. It feels like you're just like constantly moving as you're like learning new skills and like trying to master like new combos and moves and approaches. Like, does it feel like just a well designed like game to like play through?
I will say, if you're not going out of your way to find those hidden verses, the pacing is pretty good.
Okay.
My main problem is and I know this is a nitpick, because if I want to replay stuff, I can just replay each like single verse to like try and get platinum trophies if I want to. But my problem is that Bayonetta 1, it was very easy to replay through full stages, and you could just like hit all those additional verses on the way through it.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it.
You can't really do that with Bayonetta 3 because things are way more spread out. There's like platforming challenges you need to do to get to some specific verses.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Also, I don't know if it's just hard mode of a level or if it's like actually remixed, but like if you get the 3 tiers of blood in a stage, you unlock an additional variant of that entire level.
Oh,
So
okay. So you have to like there's like additional like incentive to like get those to get like new like
yeah.
new remix content too.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with that conceptually. Like I'm fine with
Uh-huh.
getting the
Yeah.
frog, even though you have to search for it. So it's like, again, you're basically pixel hunting. Um
It feels like something that I'll just like open up a guide for and like see where these things are because that'll
the
just
cat
annoy
and
me.
yeah, the cat and the crow you also need to look for, but I dislike them because they start running away once you find them, and they run so fucking fast. You really have to be on their on like right on them perfectly and cutting them off. It's not
Dude,
exactly fun.
I just want to play a Bayonetta game for the combat system.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. There's this game like because I know like I prefer Bayonetta 1 over Bayonetta 2, even though Bayonetta 1 had like the stupid instant death QTEs. Like I just
Yeah.
like the general flow of battle and like having your attacks like feel like impactful. While in Bayonetta 2,
Umbral climax all the
yeah, the
time.
Umbral Climax and Wicked Weaves like were usually just like the answers to like every problem in that game because everything else like felt like they didn't do enough damage. So how is it with this game?
It's I feel like a lot of people in the coming days and weeks are going to feel the same way. It like on the surface level, it looks like it's better than Bayonetta 2's solution, which was just Umbral Climax all the time. the summoning demons to attack for you thing is basically the equivalent of Umbral Climax. And the way they kind of try and deal with it is in specific boss fights. If you abuse the demons, like some bosses will just instantly like kill a demon, which means you can't summon it for like a couple of like half a minute or so.
Okay.
But by that point, you have 3 demons anyways, so you can just switch to another one, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I
So
will
for people who don't know, because like there's such a high level conversation, we didn't really bother to introduce anything about this game. But like one of the new systems in Bayonetta 3 is like the demon slave system, I think is what they call it, and like
Yes.
you can use that to like summon demons like that will attack on their own now. So yeah, that's what James is referring to in this entry.
So one thing that is kind of neat though is that the combat itself is fun. There's like
Okay.
a lot of depth to it. You've got way more weapons to play with this time, and obviously you have all the different demons. One thing that's interesting is that your weapons also change your movement abilities.
Okay. All right.
Like the first alternate weapon you get is these like set of flaming yo-yos, and it's also kind of like when you get new weapons you also get a new demon, and it's kind of tied to it. So
It's
the yo
like in this one, like weapons are like your whole set that you can't like mix and match like your hand weapons and your feet weapons, right? It's like
no
it's like
no it's a
okay,
whole set.
okay,
So like the first weapon you get besides the standard like punches and kicks and like the guns is these yo-yos that you can also shoot out like webs, like spider web things, kind of like Spider-Man style.
okay.
And also Spider-Man style, it changes your movement abilities where while you're dashing, you turn into kind of like a half spider woman, kind of like Lag from Demon, like Dark
Yes,
Souls.
I was thinking of like who's like the name of that Dark Souls boss? Yeah, okay,
And then when you're jumping, if you double jump, you can also like if you hold down the B button, you web sling like straight up from like Spider-Man.
okay,
You
that's
can do it
fun.
once.
All
And
right,
then there's an additional thing you can do if you double tap the R button, it'll do like a kind of like additional dash forward with web swinging. But it's like not like a swing, but it's more like it's like it shoots out webs directly in front of you and then pulls you forward.
okay.
Um, so there's like additional movement things like that, and like each weapon has its own movement thing, and you can have like 2 weapons equipped at once, and you can switch between them. So obviously you have different movement abilities that you can switch between on the
Do
fly
you
that
feel? Do
way.
you feel? Okay, so how many weapons can you switch cycle through like in combat? Like how many can you like?
2. You
Okay,
can only have 2 equipped at once.
okay. Does it feel because I haven't heard much about like what people think about this game, but do you feel that it detracts from it from being able to switch between two, or like which one do you prefer? Do you prefer mixing and matching weapons between your feet and your hands, like the previous games, or switching between these two like weapon sets?
I think the weapon set system makes more sense because each weapon now is much more in depth
Okay,
and whatnot. So it's
so
like
they
whatever. So
all right, and like you can just seamlessly like weave through them like mid
yes,
combos. Okay,
yes.
okay, cool.
Um, but yeah, like combat's really fun. The level design, besides like like my issues with how open it is, it's like it's very fun. Um, it's like a roller coaster. Like things keep happening. Things like it's the traditional platinum pacing, good and bad, where it's like you're constantly doing new things. Sometimes the things you're doing don't stick the landing. Um, there's one little gameplay aspect. So the way the game structure works is that you're going into different dimensions every 3 levels. So you get introduced to a new area, you do like a side level, and then you have the last level, which is like the first half, and then it's like the boss that's dealing with the actual like enemy of that like universe, finishing things up and getting the chaos gear, I think it's called, or something like that. Um, the penultimate fights for each universe is a bit different each time. and the very first one you do, which is in like Tokyo, you have Gamora like morph up because Bayonetta has this thing where she will literally just rip her beating heart from her chest and then do a dance and like power up one of her demons for that penultimate fight. And so for
All right.
Gamora, you make him into basically Godzilla, and then you fight the fight.
Does it do like
sounds cool.
does
It
it do,
sounds cool,
okay?
but I assure you, it fucking sucks. It is not fun
Wait, why? That sounds cool.
because it's slow, it's
Oh.
sluggish, and instead of it being because it's not like a 3D brawler, it's a
Oh.
side-scrolling kind of like fighting game, but
Oh.
not really because every attack has like 3 or 4 seconds of wind up, and it's rock paper
Oh.
scissors.
Oh, god damn.
And it's worse because you can like because like one of the things is if the other like the enemy is blocking, you want to do a bite. The problem is you can see them blocking, you can press okay, I'm going to do a bite, even though you input the command and it starts winding up the bite while the enemy's still blocking. There's a chance that they will stop blocking and they have a chance to like do the counter to the bite before yours goes off.
Nice.
So
Skill issue.
it just does not feel good. And that's the one thing that they use multiple times in the game.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask, was like, is that like a one-time thing, or they try to do different genres, like kind of like the Nier thing?
They do different genres, and I don't want to spoil
Right.
the actually fun genre shifts.
Okay.
I will say that the third region, I want to say, the third region, really, really fun. The final fight for that, so fucking good. Best boss fight in the game. The game itself, like, besides like my minor issues with like some of the gameplay elements that they add and some of the pacing stuff and the level design, it's like that's all nitpicks because I'm the type of person that likes to replay action games, and I don't necessarily feel like with the pacing that Bayonetta 3 has that it will be nearly as engaging the second or third time through. And that's a personal thing.
Mhm.
That's a personal thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the similar issue with Bayonetta 2 where it's like the first time you play Bayonetta 2, it's easy to think, man, this is great. This is better than the first game, except for the ending. But then when you try to replay it, it's like, it just doesn't feel as good. And Bayonetta 3, I feel like is the same way. It's like
Mhm.
it's a hell of a ride the first time through, but it's not necessarily something I want to replay.
Yeah.
That being said, I haven't talked about Viola yet.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how like should you have like a new playable character in this one too?
She's really fun, but the way she works, it's very much like a Nero situation where you have like this game wants to be DMC5 so bad. It wants to be DMC5 so bad. Bayonetta literally gets a weapon that's a chainsaw that turns into a motorcycle.
Okay. All right.
They want to be DMC5 so bad.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, right? Because like you would think that like they would try to like kind of create their own thing instead of like straight up like kind of ripping like that's a concept from DMC5.
Yeah, they do their own things. Like there's a
Okay.
lot of things that Bayonetta 3 does that are like very different, very interesting. The way that Viola plays, even though conceptually as a character she is similar to Nero, and I won't say anything about like okay, like who is she actually? I feel like if you've played Bayonetta 1 recently and you look at some of her character design, what she has, what she does, and her familiar like demon friend Cheshire, uh, it's not a surprise who she actually is and what they're setting up. But the way she plays is that instead of having multiple weapons, she just has the sword and her like not shurikens. What are they called? I'll just call them darts. So she has
Kunais?
kunais. So she has like the kunai dart things, and she has her sword, and then you have Cheshire, which she can send out, and it's like a similar thing to a demon slave thing for her, but Cheshire specifically is attached to her sword.
Okay.
So she throws out her sword. So when she summons Cheshire, she's going full like like unarmed combat. And it's funny because she has this like combo string when she's unarmed, when you're holding down like ZL to have Cheshire out, where she'll even basically go like or. It's really funny.
Okay.
She's a fun character to play. She's a very different character from like as an actual character vibes wise in Bayonetta. She definitely doesn't quite feel she does feel a little bit out of place, I'd say, but her gameplay style is different in the sense that she doesn't get witch time from dodging attacks at the right moment. She gets witch time by deflecting attacks perfectly.
Okay. So
And
does she have like does like the dodge button get replaced with her with like the deflect button instead?
no, she can also dodge,
Okay.
but you can guard by holding down the R button. If you time it right, you get witch time, and it's cool conceptually, except there's a little bit of a delay to it. And one thing that's especially annoying is that some enemies will have like a flash when they're about to do an attack, and sometimes the timing between the flash and when an attack lands isn't the same,
Yeah.
which is really annoying when you're trying to time those blocks.
Also,
get
it's also
the
really
illusion.
fun when you have like not a consistent frame rate too. I imagine.
Yeah, no. At the best of times, she's really fun. I suck playing her, but she's a lot of fun. She's it'll be interesting seeing how they evolve upon her in the next game if they make a Bayonetta 4, because it's made very clear that she's going to be playable in a Bayonetta 4 whenever that happens.
Oh, they tease a sequel?
They don't necessarily. Well, they say.
I don't know. I guess maybe that's just to be expected these days.
Yeah,
leave that
yeah.
door
Basic.
open.
Yeah, they're leaving the door open. It's clear that if they make an additional Bayonetta after this, that Viola would have a larger role, is all I'll say. But yeah, the game itself, a lot of fun. I don't want to talk about the story stuff because I'm sure people have seen like how some people have been like alluding to things they don't like about it.
Mhm.
The game's too fresh. I don't want to spoil it, but
Right.
I'll say I kind of agree. Like, and again, like Bayonetta 1 and 2, their stories weren't amazing, but I feel like one of the best things about Bayonetta 2 was how it's like it's a closed time loop with 1. It doesn't change the events of 1 or anything, but it does kind of give a bit more context and recontextualize it.
Yeah,
It's not like it's not
the
like
stinger. The stinger to
yeah.
Bayonetta 2 is like, oh, that's interesting. Like that's how they explain that aspect of Bayonetta 1.
Yeah, and it's like it's not like it changes Bayonetta 1, just recontextualizes. And I think
Mhm.
it's an interesting like closed time loop it has going on. Bayonetta 3 doesn't do that. That's all I'll say. Some of the things the story does, I feel like kind of detracts from Bayonetta 1 and 2's story.
Okay.
Um
Obviously, like we gotta address that because it's been like a big talk like around before the release of this game. It's like, how's Jennifer Hale's voice acting as Bayonetta?
sounds great. Definitely sounds different, but it's whatever, it's fine because like one of the things that, and I think they've even shown the marketing, it's not really a spoiler. There's multiple Bayonettas in this game,
Right. Yeah.
like different universes and whatnot. So it's like having ostensibly the Bayonetta in 3 is a different Bayonetta from the one and 2.
Yeah.
Like it's very clear because like in the prologue, you even see like a Bayonetta 1 design Bayonetta eat shit, and then it switches over to the different universe with the Bayonetta 3 Bayonetta. So it's like even like from that standpoint, having a different voice, it's like, yeah, it doesn't sound quite right, but it sounds close enough. It sounds like Bayonetta. And she does a great job with it. So it's like, and honestly, with everything else that's come out about it's like I'm glad there's a different Bayonetta this time. Like, goddamn.
Yeah.
Just sucks it has to go that way.
It do be like that. It's not great, but I'm looking forward to playing this game probably after Divine Force. After I'm done
Yeah.
with that, it's one of those things. Like both of these came out at the same time. I had to choose one over the other, so I was like, okay, I'll
Yeah.
just do Divine Force now and then Bayo 3
I do want to
later.
stress, besides like all my nitpicks, and I definitely sound negative, this is still like an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10 for me. This is a
Yeah.
really, really good game. And
Okay.
I think it's better than Bayonetta 2.
That's
It's
good.
just
That's
like
I
did
like
not
2 a
Bayonetta.
lot. So
Yeah.
but I only beat it once. I didn't do replays on it. So
Yeah,
maybe that
it's
what do you call it? The rose tint glasses hasn't worn off yet.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you only beat Bayonetta 2, then yeah, I can see why you have a high opinion on it. That's fine. That's fine.
yeah. Also, just straight up, like Bayonetta 3 is easily Platinum's most ambitious title. It's hard to like stress enough just how ambitious it is because man, there's just so many different locations in this one. There's so many different gameplay styles. There's side missions with John in between each of like the arcs, quote unquote, where you're playing as her in like a side-scrolling action game, kind of like Mark of the Ninja of all things.
Okay. Huh. Interesting.
And there's like multiple of those, and it's like just
Huh.
completely like, yeah, we kind of made this gameplay style. I feel like it was probably a situation where it's like we made this spin-off. We don't know if we can justify selling it separately. Fuck it, we'll just include it in Bayonetta 3. Because it's like again, it's an entirely different game. It's just like additional like stages in between the main arcs. You still have to play them, and it's fun, but it's like this is very, very different.
Well, I mean, congratulations to Platinum Games for releasing their first good game in 2022.
I have a silly question. Bayonetta 2 never released on anything else, right? Switch,
released on
through and
Switch.
through.
Wii
No,
U
it
and
released on
Switch.
Wii U.
Yep.
Oh, duh. Wii U. Sorry.
Yeah, Wii U and
How
Switch.
could you
for
forget the
Bayonetta
Wii
2.
U?
What's the only game
Uh,
that's missing a port from the Wii U? Oh yeah,
Xenoblade
Xenoblade
Cross.
Chronicles. Oh,
Mhm.
It's all right. You can emulate that now.
oh, there is always that solution.
You know what's fucked up? Actually, since we're sort of tangentially on this topic, there's a game coming out on Steam on the upcoming games list that's called Mad World, and then like a subtitle.
Hmm.
And I got really mad. I'm like, you can't just do that. You can't just like name a game Mad World and
That's
not
not
have it
allowed.
actually be, you know,
Yeah, that's
the
not
full
just
Mad World.
that's just not just insulting Sega and Platinum. That's insulting Matsuno because he wrote that game.
It's like the one coming out is like some MMO or something. I forgot, but I was just like, I just got really angry for a hot second.
Didn't that game get heavily censored on like day one? That they had to release a second version that's a little bit slightly altered.
Mad World?
Yeah.
I
Or am I thinking
don't.
something else?
You might be thinking of something else. I don't remember it getting censors in like the US at the very least.
Yeah,
Maybe in
definitely
other
not in the
regions.
US. Like the whole thing in the US is like I'm sure it got censored in Japan because like the whole thing with that thing is lots of blood and dismemberment. And
Yeah,
stuff.
it was a bloodbath. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember it getting censored in the US release though.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, but that's not just that's an even older problem of like that's just locked to the Wii period. They never got a release outside of the Wii, so you know.
All right. The last game that I have earmarked here, I was only introduced to slightly earlier in the month when Josh in one of our Discord channels said, "Hey, this game released on Steam. It is called Astilibra Revision, and it is getting a lot of praise." And then I talked to Adam very briefly about it, about some of the history of this game. So I've gotten kind of like bits and pieces, how it's a single Japanese developer. Supposedly he's been developing this game for like over a decade. And I basically, that's kind of where my knowledge tapers off. And someone put it here on the podcast doc. I don't know who's actually played the new Steam release that released early in October.
Was this Chow? Chow did,
I
yeah,
was playing it.
yeah. I only brought it up because a friend, me and a friend and I, like you know, we kind of have like this thing where we've been playing like a lot of like RPGs this year, and like we kind of like pride ourselves as like the like we love 7 out of 10 RPGs. So like we went through Dio Field, Valkyrie, Relayer,
Divine Force.
like a triangle strategy. Obviously not a 7 out of 10 RPG, but like we've been playing a lot of like the same RPGs. But then like we diverged here. Like you had to go play Astilibra Revision, and I played some other stuff. And then he came back. He's like, he kept saying like, you know, how good this game was, like as he was playing it. And like he got done with it after like 67 hours, and he finished it after that time. He's like, this game's really good. Like you should like get around to it. Like I was like, okay, I'll try to make some time. 67 hours is a lot, but and then I went over to the Steam page and I noticed like it's getting overwhelmingly positive reviews. and I'm like, shit, is this like a secret like gem of the year? You know, like so like that's why that's why I basically like brought it up to like the staff chat. I was like, hey, you know what, like. This game, like, no one's really talking about it, but apparently it's really, really fucking good. And like, I have a friend that like I really trust, like with their like opinion on like games, especially RPGs. And like, you know, I want to try to get around to it before the end of the year. But like, if anyone wants to check it out, like, by all means, like, you know, this game looks fucking cool.
So my impression of this game is it's like a modern take to Yeast Free, like Wanderer of Yeast. Not Open Fagana, but like a modern take of Yeast Free from the olden days.
There's like a side scroller RPG.
Yes, and even
action
the
RPG.
combat kind of feels like kind of similar. Like
Uh-huh.
you can aim your slash upwards by holding up, or you can just slash normally, you know, horizontally. And there is even like you could jump up and do like a kind of like a dive slash sort of thing, right?
Mhm.
But you have like 3 different type of weapons, like depending on how you want to use it, because they have different attack speed and different range. But like the stronger weapons can stagger enemy a lot easier versus like the weaker weapons, which kind of has trouble staggering enemies. But
Yeah,
in the end, I
faster attack speed.
I prefer the faster attack speed because every time you attack, you get ST. ST is like your MP, and when you get MP, you could do like magic attacks.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, it's better to spam the faster weapon against bosses. In my opinion, you
Okay.
can also guard a lot quicker instead of like being stuck in like attack animation, right?
Right.
So, in my opinion, like I thought the first boss was literally impossible with a sword. Then I switched to a dagger, and I'm like, damn, this is easy now for some reason, right? Because now I can guard and block the fireball. But like when I was using the sword, I couldn't do that. It was just too slow to do that. And
Well, what's like the setup of the game? Like how does like just the initial story premise?
the story is extremely weird. So basically, how the game starts out, it's like those '90s arcade kind of game. You see, like a main character is running away with this childhood friend of his, this girl, and they're like being chased by like all these demons and stuff. And then you hear a scream, and then boom, it's done. And then he wakes up, and the girl's nowhere to be found. There's no demons, and a talking crow comes to him, and this crow has amnesia, and the crow said, you know, I'm gonna help you, and you know, do this, right? And the main character, you know, wants to find his childhood friend. You know, he feels like, you know, he believes that he's still like that she's still alive somewhere out there. That's kind of like his lingering thought. So I don't know if she's dead or like I don't know, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the story, but like when people say like it's a fucking trip. I'm like really like I really wonder what happens then. You know.
But it's very bizarre
Uh-huh.
too because okay, so they're trying to find humans because apparently like they spent 8 years traveling around the world trying to find like a living human, right?
Okay, so there's like a big like time skip like at the intro, like at the setup of this. Like the crow comes to your main character, and then like they've been like already like traveled like acquainted with each other for 8 years, right?
Yes. They've been traveling around for 8 years, and then they find like a single human, and they're like camp, and they're like, hey, it's like they decide like kind of share their stories together, and that guy introduced himself, and he said, yeah, there is a town nearby, but this town's completely destroyed. Don't bother, it's a ghost town, right?
Uh-huh.
And so they slept, and the next day the guy's gone, and they go there, and that town that's completely destroyed, it's back to life, and the main character seems to have time traveled to the past.
Okay. This game sounds like a trip.
And this entire field trip, it felt like okay, because in this field trip is like it's kind of like the Yeast storyline where you're going into the mines to find a herb to save the dying girl in that village, right?
Uh-huh.
At the end of the mine, there's like a guardian beast, and you find like the sick girl's father there.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, when you kill the beast, you go to the next moment. You're in the future somehow again, like the present day, and you find the corpse of the father, and then you're like, "Wait a minute, did I time travel again?" And that guy's dead. And now the whole village is gone. And then you get like a flashback that the village is safe, but yet you find a corpse with like the father. So it left me like confused on like how the time travel is working.
Okay, this sounds really
I-
interesting. Okay.
I wish I had something more eloquent to say other than just trying to repeat. This sounds like a trip. This sounds like a trip. Like,
Yeah, this sounds like my kind of shit when it comes to stories.
It's like I don't know how the time travel system works yet. Like there has to be something, and it's like it's so bizarre, right?
Right.
But
Oh,
like
man.
the main character has no control over it either, right? So it's just so
Okay.
weird.
Huh. I really wonder what's going on then. That sounds
That's from the
cool.
prologue, right?
Yeah, it's just a prologue alone.
But
It's like, yeah, just-
I find like the most hilarious thing is when you start the game, it's like, what is it? The opening storyline's kind of long. Do you want to skip it and just get straight to the action? That's like a very bizarre for a video game to ask you to do that. I mean, the prologue's only like 10 minutes long, but like, come on, seriously?
That's so funny. It's like, okay, you don't want to get to this. You don't want story shit, right? Come on now.
Do you want to just get straight to the action right away?
Do you want to just play the video game now? It's like, all right.
But yeah, that's my impression from the prologue. And now he finds that guy that he meets for the first time, and he says he's going to introduce him to like the actual human village and find him a job, and that's where the main game starts, right? Anyways, that's all I can say for now, because I don't know like what happens to the plot, but I can imagine that there's going to be more bizarre twists to this game because nothing kind of makes sense yet. I think the weakest link of this game is just the localization. A lot of the translations kind of stiff or kind of like translate a little bit too literally. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like there's a part when at the beginning of the game where the main character said he's got to find his childhood friend, and he keeps saying that child. I gotta find that child, and it's like, why would you say that, right? And I guess in Japanese it's like ano ko, right?
Oh, okay.
That's probably what he's saying, and that's why the translation's so awkward, right?
Yeah.
But I see like the developer or somebody from the developer staff is constantly looking at like the Steam community discussion, and he's really open to feedback, and it seems like he's like constantly patching the game.
It definitely feels like a passion project through and through, and like it's really cool to see that like people have really warmed up to it. Like I've heard nothing but like praise about this game, pretty much.
Yeah, like that guy's really open to feedback, so I'm sure that like eventually like these things will be ironed out. But like I don't know, it'll take some time, but surely it'll happen, right?
Yeah. So I'm like right now like my doc is like Divine Force, then like maybe the 1 or 2 days on Bayonetta 3. Then like if I don't have like any outstanding assignments, like I definitely want to play this game. Like I'm so curious.
And the system gets a little even like crazier. Like what is it? Basically like like in Castlevania, you find all these like relics.
Yeah.
And they give you like a passive ability. How this game works is that like every equipment has like a unique passive ability. So the more you use it, you get to learn the passive ability. And
like inherently, like so you can like you could go on to the next equipment, or like
it's basically you have like a limited AP pool to, or there's something called the magic crystal to let you equip those passive abilities, right?
Okay.
So it's like imagine Final Fantasy 9. I think that's
I was about to say it sounds sort of like Final Fantasy 9.
You could equip it, but you only have like a limited amount of points to equip it, and some of these abilities get so bizarre. Like in like I think like when I see like it looks like freaking like missile spamming, like how in OP your protagonist can get later on. So like I seen like some little clips from a trailer. I'm like, damn, you could do this kind of shit later on. It's just kind of insane. And what is it? There's another thing that I forgot to mention, like the crow buddy of yours. The crow lets you like transform into like different like monsters as like a magic ability, right?
Okay.
It's kind of cool. Like I don't know, like when I fought the first boss, I find like no matter what weapon you use, does like 0 damage to the boss. So I'm like, so why not just use the weakest weapon, because it does 0 damage anyways. And because that builds MP the fastest, I can spam the magic attack the fastest to kill it. So
That's 200 IQ
that's funny.
move right there.
Yeah, that's really funny. I love it.
it was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if that was intended strategy or I was just bad with my stat management, because when you level up, you can kind of like put where your stats like where you want to, right?
Okay, so you have free reign over like your stat like build.
Yeah, it's like Diablo. You put like your stats like, oh, do I want to pump this all in strength? Do I want to pump all that? And whatever, right? Stuff like that. And you can actually reset it by going like, was it in like a weapon shop, and you just examine like equipment, and you can like reset where your stats you want to be, or you can buy an item and you can reset it whenever, right?
That just reminds me that you're reminding me that there's no respec option that I've ran into in the Star Ocean so far. It's like, oh yeah, there's no respec option.
So yeah, that's kind of like what there wasn't over there. Let's see if I remember. The item, how you buy items in this game is you need to find the materials first. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You cannot make the item unless you have the material. So, like, if you go in somewhere and they're like, hey, they sell like this awesome legendary sword, well, too bad. You can't get it unless you have the materials right there. That's how weapons are made in this game. And like, nothing is completely useless in this game, because even you got like the most useless weapon, you can dismantle it and get the materials back.
Okay.
So like anything is like there's a reason for this game. Let's see. Difficulty can be kind of, I don't know, it could be easy or hard. Like you could use unlimited healing items in this game. Like, I'm not sure if like in the harder difficulties it will disable them. It does have like a cooldown when you try to use a healing item. It will take like 10 seconds for the items to take effect. So you need to like kind of use it ahead of time.
But when you use a healing item, does it like plant you in place and make you like immovable, or
You
like
can move, but the item will not take effect till like several seconds later.
Okay.
So it's like you pop that healing potion, you need to wait like a few seconds before.
Is it like when you use it, does it have an animation for them to use it, or do you have to? Are you still moving?
You're still moving, but there's
Okay.
like a little charge bar at the end. You have to wait that charge bar to like go away before the item takes effect. So it's a little different in that kind of aspect, right?
Right.
Another thing that I could talk about is that like as soon as you kill the first boss, there's a system called a Libra scale, and the Libra scale is a really like odd system in this game. You basically have to scale, and you drop an item, and it will affect the karma system. And basically, you'll be, if you put like, I don't know, like gold in like one side, it'll make you earn more money in battle, but it devalues something else in the other side or something.
What the fuck? Okay.
But yeah, like this game is full of a lot of things. I think it's actually really cool.
That sounds rad. Honestly, like I'm digging it.
But yeah, besides like localization aside, I think this is actually like a solid entry. I think you should probably check it out.
Yeah, I wanna check it out. Like I remember before we started this podcast, like Adam was saying like this initially started life as like a web browser game, I believe.
I don't know if it was a browser game, but he released it for free.
But like it's like an incomplete version. It's like that. This is why
Right.
it's like a revision is like a remake and a fully completed version on one.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm interested. I want to get to it.
I'm not sure if
But
you're
yeah,
Sorry, James.
playing it on. Are you playing on your desktop or are you playing on Steam Deck?
I'm playing on my on desktop. Didn't really boot up my Steam Deck because I don't have any much memory. I was just too lazy to delete and like install stuff. I'm waiting for
It's a 2D game.
Hey! I like to wait for my 1 terabyte SD card to come in. I'm waiting for that Black Friday sale.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, because I wanted you to say it if you were playing on Steam Deck, since you're the one that's played the most of it. I downloaded the demo on my deck and it runs really well there. So
Cool.
it definitely seems like a good fit.
Does it have to compile shaders on it?
No, it just works.
I also forgot to mention that if you listen to the soundtrack of this game, it is like way too epic than it needs to be. Like when you go to the fucking
Yeah.
forest, it felt like you're fighting like the fucking last boss or some shit. It's like just like in the forest. I'm like, what is the soundtrack?
That sounds really good. I love music that's like probably way more grandiose than it's supposed to be for what it's for what it's depicting.
Yeah,
That's
this
my
is like
favorite
the image
genre
I'm
music.
getting. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
But yeah, it's 95% positive on Steam. It's got like 900 reviews. So it's one of those games that is definitely being carried by word of mouth, and it seems like it's one that we always try to make sure we don't let good games fly under the radar, and this seems like it's one of those. Make sure you keep an eye out for it. And again, that is it's an on only Steam now. This is Astilibra Revision.
I think it's only on Steam for right now. I didn't see it. That I might be wrong. Let me go check.
I am also checking. Yeah, we our website, which is always correct all the time, only has it marked as a PC release. But who knows if it gets if it does really well there, if it surpasses expectations. But it is mostly a single developer, so we don't know like what their capabilities are in terms of console porting.
I mean, there's always a well-known publisher that would offer the.
Okay, I went to the official website for this game, and there's like a little FAQ, like below it, and it's so good because it's like if the game won't start after a new setting is applied, the solution is try start the game by holding down the shift key. If the problem persists, please paste the content in the following in Steam forum, and it's like a file location path to the log. It's really, it's
like
made by
quaint
it's a
almost.
it's definitely a single person project, but like it's like very earnest about it. It's really you can feel that it's doing its best with the limitations capabilities that it has.
And whoever's doing the graphics for this game, I have to say, every equipment will give your character a different appearance.
Yes.
So it'll be like that. It'll be like that Ys back in the day when you get a full set and your equipment changes. But no, this is for every single different piece.
Holy shit.
So props to the graphic artist for doing that because that makes it really cool.
Yeah, that makes it really fun to just like you can mess around with the appearance of your character, see how fucked up they look, as you get better equipment.
Well, thank you, Chow, for giving us a look into Astilibra Revision, and also to James for looking at Bayonetta 2. And of course, we will go back and talk about the Divine
Bayonetta
Force
2.
in future podcasts. Oh, sorry.
Damn, we
3.
time traveled now.
Damn it. I'm not, it's just closed time loops. Sorry. Bayonetta 3 on Switch this
I mean,
week.
this
So
game
yeah,
had
3
time travel
recent.
too.
So yeah, all 3 of those games just released. Well, I guess Astilibra was released on Steam on the 13th of October, so a couple weeks ago. But some recent releases, a little bit looking out of the RPG genre for a bit, but that's okay. We can do that from time to time. A couple releases that we've talked about on previous podcasts, so we're not going to spend too much time here. We did have formal write-ups put up on the site. One of those, or I guess 2 of these, are games that Adam has talked about on maybe not the previous 2 episodes, but within the last month. Asterigos, Curse of the Stars. This is kind of that Zelda Souls-like initial game from this Taiwanese Acme game studio. I kind of fumbled that. I'm sorry. Adam talked about this on an earlier episode of the podcast and thought pretty highly of it, and wrote up a review on the site for that, Asterigos Curse of the Stars. And then another game that Adam talked about last week that unfortunately he didn't feel as highly about was Batora Lost Haven. He wrote up a review for that as well. I know he basically put those out back to back. They're both up on the site. And if you want to see the write-up for what he's already talked about on the podcast, you can go and check those out. And
No,
then
this
we
is
got
a little bit of
review
a tangent, but when we were in the Star Ocean section and Josh was talking about like all the different ways you can sort of customize how you play, I was thinking about Batora because that game has like nothing. You just straight line game basically just gives you everything, like the mechanics to you, and there's like that's it, which is not, maybe it's fine, but it just kind of like soured me, and it kind of just got dull once you kind of played it for a bit. You're like, okay, this is it, this is the whole game. So
I do enjoy your little your blurb for your like the tweet for this game. I don't know, I just got to read this just because it is very frank. Batora Lost Haven is a boring RPG with tedious dialogue and lackluster level design, saved only by adequate combat, respectable art, and a mercifully short runtime. I'm like, oh, okay, tell us how you really feel.
yeah, I wrote that. I'm like, is this too harsh?
Here's
what I thought, Adam,
your
like,
chance to take it back. You take it back.
No.
No.
It would,
No.
like I would have been even more soured on it if this game was like 20 hours long and it was just the same thing. So
I
You know, I
told that up. Like, I don't think it's hard, like harsh or too harsh. I think it's just like if that's how you feel, that's how you feel, and you shouldn't like hold back on what you really think. I think it's more of a disservice to people if you hold back.
I guess to be more positive, here's a chance to say something potentially more positive about Asterigos.
I mean, Asterigos. I was about to say for
Yeah,
Batora,
basically now.
if you like games that are like really streamlined, I mean, Batora is definitely that. It's just almost too streamlined for me.
I don't know, when you went to go back and write up the review on Asterigos, where you're like, yeah, I actually really enjoyed this, whatever part of it.
Asterigos has like a lot of good concepts and like premise. Like there's a lot of good conceptual things about it. It's just kind of rough in certain places. Like I know I talked about this like 3 podcasts ago, I believe, but the dialogue is kind of bad for a few reasons. One, the translation is just iffy in places, and 2, I feel like the story premise and how like the actual narrative is constructed over the course of the game is pretty cool. But I also feel like every single like dialogue exchange goes for about like 2 or 3 text boxes too long, where they just kind of like meander, and it's just like it almost feels like it needed another like an editor to like, you don't need this sentence, like you're just repeating yourself or you're talking circularly or something like that. And also, this is a part of the game that I kind of am of 2 minds about. So this game has a lot of side quests, and maybe this was inspired by Souls-ish design. There is no like log in the game that tells you here is the side quest and here's exactly what you need to do to go solve it. We're going to put a point on the map and tell you where to go. You don't get like a little like objective or anything, and so you kind of just have to pay attention and figure out like, oh, this person wants me to do this person wants me to do that. But sometimes it is almost too obtuse or too vague, where like a character will tell you like, I want you to talk to my friend near the amphitheater, and like you're looking all around the amphitheater, it's like, I don't see your friend, where are they? And they're actually like quite a ways away from the amphitheater. Like I wouldn't call that near, and so it's kind of like stuff like that in terms of figuring out like who you need to talk to, which NPC you need to talk to actually progress a quest. But also, so there's a journal in the game that the main character writes, and it's written in like the character's voice, so it's kind of diegetic in that way, and it's pretty cool. Like it's not just like a checklist, like do this, do that. It's like, okay, here's actually Hilda's thoughts on like the events of the game and whatnot, and she has her own drawings and everything, and it's pretty cool. But as a functional journal, it's actually kind of useless. Like if you're coming to it after the fact, like, oh yeah, she says I talked to this blacksmith. What did the blacksmith ask me to do again? I don't remember. And Hilda didn't write it down. So I know I have this quest for this blacksmith, but I don't remember what he asked me to do or where I'm supposed to go or anything about this quest other than I have a quest with the blacksmith. And even if you talk to the blacksmith, he's like, did you find it yet? It's like, find what? What am I looking for? I forgot. So I kind of wish Hilda had taken better notes in her journal. So that's sort of what I mean by of 2 minds. Like I like it that in terms of the side questing in the game isn't just like go here, pick up this, go here, do that, and it just points it out to you. But I also kind of feel like just on a functional level that it's almost too obscure. I actually had a decent time when I was playing through the game on the Steam forums, like trying to collaborate with other people. Like, what are you supposed to do with this quest? Like, how do you progress it? Like, I just talk to every NPC in the game and figure out which one has like the flag to progress the quest. So, I'm of 2 minds.
Sorry,
I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just kind of.
The thing that pops in my brain when you describe it like that is like, I wonder how you would feel about Elden Ring.
Yeah.
So. Nope, but thank you for kind of summarizing your thoughts on those 2 games. So listen to the previous episodes of the podcast for him going more in detail on those. And then, of course, we have the 2 write-ups on the site for Asterigos Curse of the Stars and Batora Lost Haven. And the last review that went up on the site in the last week is one from Scott White. He previewed this previously, and that is Lost Eidolons, which released on Steam a couple weeks ago, and then wrote up a full review on the site just this last week. Obviously, I do not want to speak for site. I'll try to let for Scott, I'll let his review speak for itself. It sounds like that he thought that the gameplay aspects of Lost Eidolons was really, really strong. He thought that it had both good combat stylings as well as its like overarching features that he compares to like Fire Emblem Three Houses Monastery feature, where he said that in Fire Emblem he thought it was a little bit overwrought and kind of slow, where he thought in Lost Eidolons is a lot more manageable. It sounds like the game fumbles most on its presentation and its writing, and a little bit on its bugginess. So hopefully those are things that the studio is working on. But in order to get the full context for Scott's thoughts, I suggest going and reading through the Lost Eidolons review up on the site. As for the news section of this podcast, there really is no like theme to the week. Like usually we can at least like bundle announcements under a publisher, under a console, or something like that. But here, not quite so much. It's a little bit scattershot, but we'll go through it here. The first thing that we'll have here is we got an announcement for what one of the previously mysterious Witcher projects was. So if you listened to our podcast a couple weeks ago, we talked about how there were a new Witcher trilogy in development and a few new spin-offs. We talked about all the different project names for them: Project Polaris, Sirius, and Canis Majoris. If you don't remember what those are, that's no problem. I don't either. But one of them was Project Canis Majoris. This is a story-driven, single-player, open-world RPG set in the Witcher universe, led by ex-Witcher veterans. It turns out what this game actually was The Witcher Remake, as a new open-world RPG built in Unreal Engine 5. So I'm kind of just looking back at the initial announcement of this game, back when it was just a project title, and like, yeah, I guess that checks out. It's
No
being
lies
made
detected,
by
I
people.
guess. Technically, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right. It's set in the
Yeah,
Witcher
yeah, no
universe,
lies.
that's for sure.
Made by ex-Witcher devs, people who literally, I don't know how true the statement is, but ex-Witcher devs, so some talent from the original game on this, which is good.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that like this is made by not by CD Projekt Red themselves. This is made from a Polish studio, Fool's Theory. I don't know what else they've done. I forgot to go look at their other projects, but but they've definitely said in the press release that like staff from previous Witcher games will obviously be working on this as well. There's not really much outside of that news, to be honest. It's just
there are no screenshots, no art, just a title and an engine mostly, and the developer of themselves, of course, the studio.
But it makes sense. Like I know people, to a certain extent, rightfully so, like kind of get tired of like remakes, especially from like more recent games. But the first Witcher is definitely deserving of a remake at this point. It initially came out in October 2007, and the enhanced edition came out in September 2008, and they're only available have only been available on PC ever since they're it released. So I mean, yeah, it's high time. Like a lot of people got exposure to The Witcher through The Witcher 3 and through the Netflix TV show. So obviously, a good chunk of those people want to experience the trilogy and want to go through 1, 2, and 3. And playing through the first one these days it hasn't aged well. It is very, very old. Especially a lot of its like gameplay mechanics, its visuals. Obviously, it's a very different game from what like people think of as modern Witcher.
It's like a PC RPG.
Yes. It had like the combat does like a lot of like very rhythm based sword strikes and
on your mouse clicks. Yeah, I like mouse clicks.
It is neat for its time, but it's not something that has aged gracefully. And it doesn't help that was only available on PC. There was never a release on like consoles for that game. It's crazy to think about, but that only happened to Witcher 2.
Yeah, I remember Witcher 2 releasing on Xbox 360 was big news at the time.
Yeah,
and now having not being on a console is unheard of, like for all these future Witcher projects.
So it makes sense. I'm sure this Witcher remake they'll definitely want to try to target consoles as well as PC. I have to imagine whenever this takes fruition. And yeah, hopefully it retains some of that kind of charm to the first Witcher that was only really seen in that first Witcher. It was of a time for sure, but like I kind of don't want like some of that kind of like that jankness to fully be gone.
There absolutely has to be annoying kids. They have to still be around.
Yes.
My My memories of the original Witcher are a little bit foggy. I have played it, but my memory just sucks. I do, however, remember though that uh, that game really leaned into like the potion creating mechanics and like the I forget what you call them in universe, where The Witcher 2 and 3 also had those. Um, but there's a part in the game where I forget if it's a poison or like a side effect to one of your potion imbuements, but it causes the game to have this like graphical effect where these red dots appear all over your screen. And I was like, oh no, is my GPU dying? Because this is back in like 2012 and I had just started playing PC games and I didn't know like what I was doing. And I'm like, oh no, like, is my game running okay? What am I doing? But like, no, it's just, it was just the visual effect that they decided to use in that game. I remember searching for it at the time and I wasn't the only person that got like freaked out by that. It's like, okay, it wasn't just me. I'm not paranoid.
I haven't really like looked into it for obviously a very long time, but like, is the first Witcher like runnable on modern PCs, or do you need like a mod too?
It's runnable on modern PCs, and I believe it's Steam Deck playable. Let me double check.
Oh wow, really? That's crazy! Holy shit! How do you know how you play that game on a Steam Deck?
1 second.
Huh.
Witcher Enhanced Edition. Yep, Steam Deck playable.
Wow, that's fascinating. I wonder what the control scheme is like for that game.
Yeah,
on Steam Deck. Well,
yeah,
I
because
mean,
it doesn't have official controller support. I don't think.
I don't remember.
If anyone listening wants to play the original Witcher before the remake, it until November 1st, it's on sale for 85% off on Steam. You can buy it for $1.49. It costs less than a soda at the convenience store.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, I'm sure the first Witcher will get many more discounts from now till the remake. So don't if you missed it now, don't worry. Like it goes on sale very often for very very low prices. And I think it'd be very very interesting to see playing the original before the remake comes out, like having somewhat of a fresh memory and like going to the remake, like holy shit, it looks so much better. What the fuck?
I found a Steam forum post from 2014. Weird red spots when moving. What the heck is going on? So yeah, okay.
There you go. You're not alone.
All right. So apparently that's when you have too high of a toxicity in the game from having too many potions with side effects. All right.
Nice.
And then between when I created our podcast outline and now, someone added a subheadline to our Witcher news about the Witcher season 4 from Netflix. I guess I had no idea about this, that while Henry Cavill will be reprising his role in season 3, he will not be in season 4. It'll instead be Liam Hemsworth.
Yep, just came out.
Surprising.
This news just came out.
People are reading into it. I think it's more about the fact that wasn't it just announced that Henry Cavill is going to be doing more stuff in the DC?
Yeah, he's going to be Superman again.
Yeah, he's back as Superman.
So I'm guessing he's just anticipating that it'll be like.
It must be a scheduling hell for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since they have James Gunn helming DC now for the most part as well. So it's a DC still trying to find ways to catch up to Marvel to a certain extent when it comes to films. But yeah, I mean it sucks because Cavill did such an amazing job as Geralt in the TV series, and hopefully Liam Hemsworth really knocks it out of the park.
I think he carries the show, to be honest.
To a certain extent, Cavill is very charming as a very charming Geralt.
I have no idea how it's going to turn out without him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, I think I only watched the first 2 seasons. I didn't watch season 3 of The Witcher yet on Netflix. But Cavill definitely struck the right balance between like the gruffness of Geralt with kind of the sort of the dorky aspects of him too. So that's not easy to pull off. So I'm very interested to see how Hemsworth does it.
Like I said, our news section of this podcast is a little bit scattershot. So now we're going to go to a completely different type of game. This game was something that was announced not too long ago, but I'd almost forgotten about it. And that is Disgaea 7. So Disgaea 6 came out last year, but it didn't really make many waves. I feel like they changed the art style. It had the weird Switch PS4 region exclusivity bits, which is kind of strange. But Disgaea 7 was announced, and in this last week, Nippon Ichi released a new blog post in Japan that basically detailed a ton about the game, about the characters and the monster classes and things like that. Now, this game has not been officially announced for a Western localization, so I do want to make sure that I give a huge shout out to Kite Steinbuck, who translated a ton from this blog post to help assist Adam put it up on the site for the Disgaea 7 announcement post from this week. So, Adam, you've played a couple of the Disgaea games. I don't remember.
I played one and two. I've been waiting for
because
three.
You've been waiting
on
for
PC.
3. Yeah.
And it'll never happen.
Just get a Vita.
I actually do own Disgaea 3 on Vita, and like
But
I
you're
could play
stubborn.
it. I am stubborn.
Just play it on Vita.
No, Adam's Disgaea journey.
Actually, I'm gonna check something. I'm just gonna check something really quick. Vita 3K compatibility list. Because there's a chance.
Why do I have a
emulate.
feeling this is related to Steam Deck? Oh,
No, it's emulation.
Okay.
Supposedly, the scuttlebutt is that Disgaea 3's code is kind of messed up and hard to port.
Guess
So-
what, Adam? Disgaea 3 is listed as playable on the Vita emulator. You can just play it on PC that way.
If I were to play it on Vita, or the Vita version, I just play it on Vita, but or PlayStation TV.
Look,
But,
look, Adam doesn't like
Or
emulators.
PlayStation
Okay,
TV.
I have a PlayStation TV. It's actually I have it right here. It's right next to me here.
What about emulating
No.
the PS3 version?
Well, I'd play the Vita version just because that's got the enhanced edition. You know,
Your
every
PS3 is still
it
hooked
feels
up,
like
right?
every Disgaea game, at least up to 4, had like a re-release with more stuff. So, because there's like the PSP versions and then the Vita versions, they always added more.
they're saying to wait for Disgaea 7 complete.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the localization thing is sort of weird just because, like, Disgaea 6, that was announced in a Nintendo Direct. And so it was sort of like a simultaneous announcement. Although the Japanese version had a PlayStation version, and then the Western version eventually got a PlayStation version, but not right away. It's kind of weird. We talked
I
about
forgot that it
before.
eventually did. Yeah.
Yeah, and PC. I think it's on PC now.
Yeah, it's
too.
on PC now too.
Yeah. So all of them are 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 are on PC. Anyways, so this latest update. So when they originally announced the game, they kind of revealed like the characters and their character art and the character design, but it didn't like introduce who they were yet. So this update kind of goes through the whole character cast. So if you're the type of person who likes to read up on the characters, you can do that now. They also previously revealed some of the normal like human classes that are coming back coming to the game, like both returning from earlier games, but also the new classes I believe were like a female dancer and like a male thief. And the way Disgaea works is usually the male and female versions of a class do behave a little differently. Like the male and female mages, they have a different name. They do a little different things. There's like cleric and clergy for like the male and female healer. So there's a little bit of difference between like now with the new male thief compared to the female thief and so on. So that was previously revealed. The new update, they revealed like the new monster classes to the game. One of them is a death princess who supposedly they power up when their allies die, and they can also resurrect themselves, which I think is kind of fun. And then there's also like a beholder like monster that's like a giant floating eye, which is also pretty cool, to be honest. And then the other information revealed is more about the story. There's like 7 divine weapons. Your characters apparently have like 2 of them, and then there's like a villain who has 1 of them. And I'm sure that'll basically kind of be the MacGuffins of the story are these divine weapons, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of screenshots, so you can check all that out. Not announced for localization yet.
And then again, also just a very big shout out to Kite for translating all this, because none of this has been in Western marketing at all. So this is all grabbing it from Nippon Ichi's home website. All right, Chow, I'm going to rely on you for this next one. So we got a release date for Genshin Impact 3.2. Sorry, I'm going to read this. I don't know what it is, but I'll read it. We're going to get 2 new characters, Nahida and Lila, and the finale to Sumeru's storyline. So, in speaking at a high level, it feels like Genshin Impact, ever since version 3, you've been a little bit more high on compared to 2, where you seemed like every single time you talked about how there was nothing to do. Are you excited for so 3.2 is launching in the next week. Are you excited for this update? and why?
I actually wanted Nahida. Actually, I said I was not interested in any of the characters before the was a 3.0 launch because I didn't really care about their designs too much. But now I end up like kind of like rolling every single character that kind of came out, except for Sino. I skipped Sino
Why is that?
because we just don't care about dudes. That's a
Oh, okay.
gotcha mentality.
All right. I mean, that's honest enough. So why Nahida then?
Nahida is the Dendro Archon, so her backstory is actually kind of interesting. It's basically what happened in the kingdom of Sumeru is basically like the kingdom of Alexandria in real life. It's like this library kingdom, right? And all these sages like collect their knowledge in this weird ass internet network that they give to like the people that live there. Basically, as soon as you go to Sumeru, they'll hand you these like Google glasses called the Akasha, and it basically steals all your personal data, and it basically feeds into this library. And the sage over there controls everything, and the town's kind of really messed up in a way because the people that live there don't really worship their god. Instead, they treat her as a curse because Nahida's backstory was there used to be like a greater god back in her time, but she gave up her life in order to make Sumeru like reborn with life, and she reincarnated as this like kind of like a childish version of her, and because of that, the sages kind of like blame her for the death of their god, so she's kind of like outcasted in her own kingdom. That's kind of like the backstory of her.
I remember it's like because you have like a mobile game channel on our Discord, and I know a lot of like the talk about Genshin's recent patches. Like they kept talking about like, man, we just got like a full on like big ass JRPG like in like one of the recent patches. It's like it's just like a lot of like content and some of these latest patch updates for that game.
They actually do have a lot of content in these new patches. Like, there's lots of places to explore. There's lots of things to do. So it's actually quite exciting to be a Genshin player. But like
so
I
basically,
said,
if you fell off during the version 2 updates, it sounds like it's worth it to push through to version 3.
yes,
Cool.
there is a thing that they added in 3.0 that I never covered because we barely talked about Genshin during that time. There's a thing that in the event thing that lets you instantly skip to Sumeru instead of like Inazuma, where you have to do a shit ton of quests in order to get to Inazuma. You know, there's now an option to like let you automatically skip there if you reach a certain rank. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like you're playing like Final Fantasy 14 and you just want to get you want to get the Stormblood, but you don't want to go through Heavensward. It's just like, oh, there's a bunch of instantly skip to Stormblood, you know.
Do we have to do all the binding coils of Bahamut to reach this storyline in Genshin?
I hope not, because I can't even kill the first boss. But yeah, so basically they add that option for the people there. What is there that I forgot to mention? Let's see. I don't think we even went back to the last Furious patch when Nilo came out, was it? I think that's even like when it comes to revenue, everyone skipped Sino to get Nilo. So
Who's Nilo?
Nilo is this dancer that works at this festival, and I think she's more than what she seems. Like, she seems to be like very knowledgeable about all these kind of things, and maybe she might be royalty of some sort. I don't know. Who knows? Like, she just seems way more special than what she lets on. She wears this this kind of like this horn kind of crown over her, and she's like this dancer. And the reason why she wears this kind of like this dress is because she represents the flower goddess, or what the flower goddess used to look like. Apparently, all these gods basically died during the War of the Archons, so nobody can really tell you what they actually look like. But yeah, so that's basically Nilo.
So, like, what do you like at the pace that Genshin is going? So, like, it is supposedly the finale to Sumeru's storyline. Like, do you think this like next patch will just like this will completely wrap up Sumeru, and then now you guys are gonna be waiting like in this intermission period till the next arc.
The thing is about this story, I don't exactly call it wrapping up Subaru's plot line. It's more like wrapping up like Inazuma's plot line, more like it.
Oh, okay.
There's this basically in the Raiden Shogun arc, you find out this one villain guy named Scarmouche. What is it? I'm trying to remember. He's like kind of like this villain that has like electro powers, and he works for the Fautui. And his backstory is that he's like this failed clone of Raiden Shogun, and now he's gone batshit insane, and he's trying to get revenge. And he's gonna be like the final boss of this Sumeru arc. And they've been kind of setting him up. It's like you forgot about this guy, back when you finished Inazuma arc, right? And now he's coming back.
Well, it's kind of neat that they're like tying the arcs together so that there's a little bit of like a cohesive tissue between them rather than them being completely divorced from one another.
Yeah, like it's like it felt like it's like, hey, it's like you sell one problem, but you forgot there's another problem. So, do you remember the Raiden Shogun arc story, Josh?
Oh, I never played Genshin that far. So I don't know anything about anything outside of like the first two regions.
Okay, let's just say Raiden Shogun's basically a NEET. Let's say that.
Okay, I know that like the all the only thing I know about Raiden Shogun are the memes of her being a bad cook.
Basically, how it goes is that there's two twin sisters. One of them basically died during the Archon War, and then this twin sister basically created clones of herself to do with all the war and politics and all that shit, and just kind of enclosed in her own world. That's basically Raiden Shogun's storyline. So It's like she's like a NEET that's stuck in her own head, and she just basically let her clones to do whatever, right?
All I know is that I have a good amount of friends and people I follow, and even in our community, there are a lot of fans of Raiden Shogun. That's all I know.
Oh, we do like the character, yeah, but like I said, she is a NEET. That's basically it. It's basically your stereotype NEET that likes light novels. That's Raiden Shogun's backstory in a nutshell.
I know that she pulls out like a lightning sword out of her cleavage.
Yes, she does.
Okay.
But
for those who are not terminally online, NEET is short for not employed, or not in employment, education, or training, right?
Basically it.
So,
but yeah, in the end of the story,
so NEET, it's like a person who stays home. They're not employed. They're not in education, like they're not being like going to school or anything, and they're not in training. They're not working towards anything. They're
just
a hermit.
think about it. Basically, think of it this way: she's traumatized from the war. She doesn't want to deal with this shit, so she just kind of creates a clone to do her own politics and rule the land and all that shit. But what happens if these clones go haywire and become like a tyrant and shit, And you're basically trying to get her to fix it, right? And that's kind of like the plot arc for Raiden Shogun, to basically undo the damage that her clones did.
You're gonna do that. I'm gonna go make a clone and then become a NEET. They can do all this shit.
Yeah, it's like fuck up your reputation, I guess.
I don't care. Who cares?
Yeah, that's kind of like her storyline, and she finally like overcome her terms, and like she finally deal with her trauma with her twin sister's death. That's kind of like it, and like how the name goes is like how she was called like Bale, and there is, but I think that's like the Shogun name. I think that's like the Archon name, like Barbatos and things or something like that. But anyways,
are you expecting anything out of Genshin as like the end of the year is coming? Do you think they're working towards anything at the end of the year, or you won't see anything significant till the next year?
I don't know. I think there's only one problem with Genshin: it is never a generous game, because it feels more like it's so successful to the point that they don't have to treat their customer nice because they know the money always rakes in, right? Because I haven't seen like any quality of life improvements.
Yeah, well, okay. Let's say, when was the last time you spent money on Genshin?
When's the last time I spent money? Does buying a welcome pass count?
Yes.
Yes.
Oof.
You already know this, man.
Yeah, if I buy a welcome pass, then then I've been buying a welcome pass for the last 2 months because I need enough rolls to get Nahida.
Does this count?
But I told my friend that I'm gonna whale to get a
Mhm.
C2 Nahida because it's gonna be the most broken combo you could use in the game besides the national team. The national team is basically like it's like basically everybody from Leoyu with what is it? It's basically everybody from each region. That's basically the joke. That's why it's called a national team. You basically have Raiden Shogun, you have Shang Lang, you have Sing Chu, you have Bennett, and with that 4 combination, you can destroy any boss in the Abyss in less than 2 minutes.
That's the
A
meta.
max. Yes, that is the meta. They call it the national
Mhm.
team because
That's kind
you
of an endearing name. I like that.
you get like a person from each country basically. But yeah, so basically with this, there'll be a different meta because the Dendro element, it has some really crazy shit. Basically, when lightning combines with Dendro, the grass element, it creates this effect called I think it's called Bloom. And what happens with Bloom is like this. It's like imagine your chain lightning effects being like a giant thorn, and it just fucking hurts like hell. And Nahida is like this giant like bloom spreader. So you have like the bloom effect for the entire field, and you have someone else like that can spam lightning or water. It's like all kinds of crazy shit will happen, and that's why everyone is obsessed with trying to get Nahida right now. Like
I am in dangerous territory. I am on the Genshin Impact fandom wiki, learning about elemental reactions.
No.
it could be a meta changer.
It is the
Basically,
Hydro Dendro elemental reaction.
So
And apparently there's Hyper Bloom. I'm gonna close this tab.
Yeah. Next thing you know, Brian's gonna be like I'm a fucking Genshin lore master. I'm installing it right now.
when it releases on Switch, I'll play it.
Yeah, when the Switch Pro comes out.
Genshin Impact Strongest Warrior excited to play it for the first time.
Wow. I don't know, man.
Well, so that'll come out on the, what did I say, the 3rd? So within the next week. So depending on whether or not you're ready to talk about it, we might hear your thoughts next weekend.
You want me to stream my polls?
Yeah, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
If I'm online, I will head into the chat room and watch you pull for Nahida.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm pulling for you, Chow.
Don't worry, my friend just spent $3,000 in Nilo. He wants to flex on me to prove that he's the ultimate water god. Because Nilo apparently have this passive ability that the more you wail on her, she basically has this crit buff that's based on her HP. So he's trying to get her to like 70k HP to get like this ultimate crit buff.
I'm really happy for you and your friend. You know what? With strong warriors like you and your friend, Mihoyo will never have to worry. And
He told me that it's like I'm only wailing this hard because I want you to write an article on how much I love Dilo. And I'm like, this is never happening, bro.
You'll have to run that by Alex, I'm sure.
Is that how it works? I'm gonna tell my friends that. It's like, hey, I'm gonna write an article if you wail this much.
The next piece of news I have here was something, again, very different from our previous conversations for our different headlines. This is something I was not expecting at all, and that is an announcement for a second season pass for Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. So this is the CRPG that released last year from Owlcat Games. They also made Pathfinder Kingmaker, and they're currently working on Warhammer Rogue Trader. And this game, over the last 12 months, has been going through its releases for its first season pass, which, like I did with Kingmaker, I was sort of like tentatively planning to revisit the game once all the DLC had come out. You know, I don't want to reload it up every time. I'd rather just have it all come out in like one bulk and experience it all. So with Kingmaker, I actually did that. I played the game once, then all the DLC came out, and I played it a second time, and I even wrote up like my revised thoughts on the game. So with Wrath of the Righteous, it seems like they're having enough success with their continuing support that they're just saying, here's the second season pass. I have not followed the first season pass, so I don't really know like how each of those, I know one of them had like some sort of like procedurally generated mode. There was an additional class. I think there was a part that actually extended the main story. We got a high level overview about the DLCs for the second season pass. One of them is a new party member and a new class. One of them is a sequel campaign to one of the DLCs previously, and then one of them is kind of it looks more like a festival holiday, kind of like more higher levity addition to the game. But long story short, like this, I thought was really surprising for a game that I didn't think too highly of, but I am willing to like give the benefit of the doubt and revisit. But I'm just going to continue waiting until now all this second set of DLC comes out. So it sounds like they've really been working hard on Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, and they're really adding a lot to it. But the fact that they've announced they don't even have titles for these DLCs yet, they're just calling them DLCs 4, 5, and 6. And we don't know, obviously, the release cadence on these, but I don't know. It was kind of unexpected and interesting to see. And maybe in a year, once these are all out, I'll play through all of these at once and provide you with my actual feedback.
Now remind
It
me.
is interesting.
Pathfinder Kingmaker was published by
Prime Matter, right?
I think
or
it depends on the
Deep
PC
Silver
or console versions.
Well, I'm on the Steam page and it says Prime Matter.
Okay.
That's the Enhanced Plus edition, so I don't know if that also affects things. But
Wait,
I know
does that
they
Enhanced
said,
Plus edition?
that's what it says, Enhanced Plus edition. But anyways, I know they said in the video that like since Wrath of the Righteous is self-published, right? At least the PC version, they are. I guess it's. Oh yeah, it says Meta Publishing now. Okay, Meta Publishing and Alcat. So the publishing on these is kind of weird. But I know they said in the video that like they have more control over this game to like add more DLCs or whatnot. Whereas it seemed to imply that like for the first game they'd have to like get approval or whatever to do it. Or here they just can the development team can just decide to do a second season pass on their own. So the publishing is weird. It's not the same publisher in any case.
So basically, I'm looking. Okay, I'm gonna close this tab too. I was looking at the Pathfinder Kingmaker store page. Like someone's actually asking what's in the Enhanced Edition and what's in the Plus Edition, and then there's also an Imperial Edition. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna wait until Wrath of the Righteous has all of its ducks in a row, it has everything added, and then I'll just tell me which box I get figuratively, and then I'll get it, and then I'll let you know how I feel. Yep. So I thought Kingmaker was the better game. Wrath of the Righteous was still good, especially if you really like just that style of CRPG, because we're not getting as many these days, at least not from the high profile publishers. But yeah, I guess we'll just continue to monitor when those DLCs come out, and then at some point I'll play through that again and let you know what I think. So that's probably more than a year out, and let's see if it was worth it. And I'm also interested in playing Rogue Trader once that comes out, because it'll be my first foray into Warhammer at all.
Warhammer expert Brian, like I know everything about Warhammer now.
I'll finally be able to have a conversation with CD about Warhammer. All right, that's kind of it for like the bigger news. We got a few release dates and a few gameplay trailers here, and then a few other announcements. So we'll just kind of roll through these. This one's kind of interesting, but I can't really drum up any genuine excitement for this. A couple weeks ago, we finally learned about the new release date for Marvel Midnight Suns. It's releasing in early December on the 2nd, at least for PC and current gen consoles. That was after they had announced that it was releasing like this fiscal year or whatever they called it. But we did also get an announcement ahead of release of the base game for their season pass content, which basically this is obviously a Marvel property. So it seems like a lot of this is trying to tie loosely into the current ongoing, popularity of that cinematic universe. So they've announced that 4 new playable characters are coming in as part of their DLC pack, and they are Deadpool, Venom, Storm, and Morbius.
Let's go!
It's kind of fun, I suppose.
It's Morbin time.
And then they also announced they also announced a bunch of skins, and those that watched Scott's preview video that's up on our YouTube for Marvel Midnight Suns, it seems like cosmetic skins, the way that they're implemented in this game is very deliberate and a little bit strange. They kind of just gave us a bulleted list of all the different skins, like Iron Man, Iron Knight skin, Wolverine, Logan skin. So I guess if you're a really big Marvel fan, you'll enjoy this. But I'm the sort of person that I almost always play with default skins. I talked about that with Xenoblade and in a few other places. So that list doesn't really excite me. But this is just the usual thing where it's hard for me to get excited for DLC announcements, especially on a cosmetic scale before the game's even announced. But I guess I get it. That's the business.
It is, it's always kind of like that weird murky territory of like before the game comes out, you release all like you have already your season pass lined up and all your DLC plans lined up, especially for these characters have fan bases. Like
Mhm.
Venom, very popular character. Storm, very popular character. Deadpool, very popular character. Morbius, popular for reasons.
Ironic choice.
Popular for
Ironically
reasons.
popular character.
But I'm sure a good amount of people are like, well, I might as well just wait for all of them to come out because like there's all DLC that's gonna be gradually distributed over next year. Like the trailer for
these aren't one DLC. This is 4 different DLCs, one for each character.
yeah, and they're not coming out at the same time. Like in the trailer, they said that the Deadpool DLC is gonna be early 2023. So it's kind of a weird thing. But the character are in the artwork for the announcing this is really cool. They have like Deadpool wearing like a wizard hat in it, which is fun. So, I'm still looking forward to this game. I wanna hopefully it's good, man. Like I really want to like it. I think it has a lot of potential to be something cool. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the news about it. It's like, hey, there's more characters coming to it. If you decide to return to it after playing through it, or if you decide to just wait on it until they all come out.
We got an announcement of another new Pokemon, so this will be pretty brief. This one is a ghost dog Pokemon named Greavard. Am I pronouncing that right? Greavard? I can't. Maybe my brain is dumb, but what is this a pun of, or is it just graveyard sort of? But then I don't get the dog. Yeah, then I just don't get the dog tie-in.
I don't know. All I know is it's a cute little pup with a candle on its head.
And then it burrows underground, so all you see is the candle. My favorite thing about this, I forget if it was Twitter or what, but it was like, what if Hanna-Barbera, like from old like 80s cartoons, designed a Pokemon?
That's what I first thought when I saw it, and I'm glad that someone else said it because it's like, am I the only one who sees the Hanna-Barbera like kind of style to it? I don't know. It's like the jagged mouth line, I guess, sort of. And then like the droopy
and you can't
hair.
see his eyes.
Definitely the curvature of the nose with the jagged mouth line that reminds you of Hanna-Barbera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a whole. It's a lot, and I love it.
And any teenager listening to this podcast now is like, who?
I know. No. I don't want to explain the Hanna-Barbera is. I'm not ready for that.
I do enjoy that it's Greavard will slowly and inadvertently absorb the life force of those around it, so it's best not to play with it too much. So it's like it tries to make friends and then just leeches your life force away because these Pokemon can't just be cute. They'll always have a Pokedex entry that you're like, wait, what? when you read it twice.
You know what? I will assume responsibility for it. It can drain my life force. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. We got a sort of an announcement, another blog post from BioWare for the upcoming Dragon Age Dreadwolf. I wish this was a bigger headline than it is, but it's not. So in this new blog post, Gary McKay, the general manager of BioWare, says that Dragon Age Dreadwolf has completed its alpha milestone and is now playable from start to finish. But just like the Witcher announcement, this wasn't accompanied with art or music or anything else other than really that statement. And I'm trying not to be dismissive, but it's a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. They talk about how they can evaluate the game's pacing, how they can look at like the narrative choice results and the player progression, but there's just nothing to like latch onto or tether it to with a public blog post.
I think it's a little odd to like kind of give us like updates like this, like during their development. Like I kind of get that, like on some level, it's like transparency, but it's like it doesn't. I kind of don't. If you have like really nothing to show yet for this game, like that's tangible, that like people will engage with, like when they actually like play the video game. Like I don't need to know like. I don't need a progress report of like, hey, we got done with like the sound effects of like this town. And it's like, okay, cool, I guess. I guess
I even wish they had even just like a new concept art because even when I'm like trying to like post this news update on Twitter, it's like, oh, I can just use the same art, like the singular art that we've had since 2018, or the logo, or like one other piece of concept art that we have. There's
or
like,
you just like
give us something to look at
from like from other like BioWare or Dragon Age like novels or whatever. Just be like, I'm
Yeah.
just borrowing from your other stuff because I don't have anything here. And I don't want to be too dismissive because the behind the scenes stuff I think could be good. Like literally show, even if you don't detail it, like the generation of the dialogue trees or something like. But I know you have to be careful there, but I'm just I just wish there was something more than them just telling us the update. They show us something, even if that something is like rudimentary or crude, or at least like detailing what they're doing. This is just saying, believe us, we're doing this, and this now. We've reached this milestone.
Yeah, it's just like it's really weird for me. I'm just like, just take the time that you need, and when you have something to show that's like substantial, like, you know, then show it when it's time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really don't need. I really hope there's like kind of like the last one of these that we get, because I don't want to see more of this thing if you have nothing to show. You know, I don't need a progress report. We're not in school. It's okay.
We got a new trailer from Square Enix about a January RPG Forspoken. So this trailer is a gameplay-focused trailer specifically focused on magic parkour. And that's actually like the title of that branch of magic in the game.
Yeah.
So this is like a free...
Actually, that I don't know if that like surprised me, but it's just kind of like, oh, it's not just like seemingly parkour. They're literally categorizing it as these are parkour abilities. That's like what it's actually called. Like, oh, okay.
So they basically go through each of these. Like there's like shimmy, and then there's like leap, and then there's
Shimmy.
like tether. And I might be getting some of these names wrong, but I think it's actually a decent trailer. I think the focus is a bit specific, and this is the first of I guess 3 deep dives.
I think they say in the description they're basically going to be releasing one a week. So over the next 2 weeks, we'll get 2 more trailers, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I like movement options, so highlighting this as like my hope for this game is as fast as Star Ocean, you know. Oddly enough,
everything goes back to Star Ocean
because I love the fast-paced nature of that game, and this game really wants to do, like, you know, evoke that feeling of like, hey, you can move around very very quickly, and that's. Sure, you know, I hope this game is good. I think the more they show of its gameplay and less of like everything else, like the more I'm interested in it.
Just don't have the main character talk. Don't give me the story premise about the isekai stuff. Just show me the either. I suppose skip all the cutscenes. They talk a little bit about how these abilities will also synergize with the combat as well. At least at a high level. One thing that I did kind of, groaning is too strong a word, but they talk about how you can upgrade your parkour abilities, and then there's like a little UI prompt that says like, "Congrats, you used shimmy 50 times."
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, oh, is that like the level of engagement? It's like, I don't know. Like you could have done something more interesting than that. But of course, it's a very quick snip from a trailer, so I don't want to like embellish.
But I saw that too, where it's like, oh, are we gonna have to like fill like checklists of like doing this so many times to like power up?
You've done shimmy 50 times. Now you can do shimmy 2, and it goes 10% further or whatever.
Yeah, the skill is literally called shimmy.
Yeah,
it's like a quick leap.
It's like a leapy thing.
That's what they should do for Street Fighter V, child. Like that, every time when on your 100th shimmy, you're like, "Oh, congrats! You've done your 100th shimmy in the middle of battle."
Hey, they give you rewards in Street Fighter V already for landing certain things. Okay. Get your fight money for letting like 20 critical arts, okay?
Does it show you in the middle of the battle, like just right there? It's like, congratulations!
Usually after the match over. I mean, it'll be too distracting. Imagine if you keep getting an achievement notifier while like the match is happening. It'll be
they should have like the Call of Duty level up sound effects in the middle of like a Street Fighter V battle.
It'll be so annoying. Be like dead for the distraction.
That's what they should do for Forspoken as well.
And the rest of the headlines here are mostly the release dates or release windows. The first one is we have an Xbox console release date for Sword and Fairy Together Forever. This was originally Sword and Fairy 7. When it released on PC and then later on PlayStation. But then I guess for the console versions, they gave it that extra subtitle. So just kind of cool that we have, you know, Xbox usually ends up being like the lone man out for some of these I don't want to say JRPG because it's Chinese, but Eastern RPG releases outside of their like normal catalog of Microsoft published titles, but it's kind of cool that this is making its way over to Xbox. It would be interesting to see how well it does and if they end up like boosting it on its Game Pass platform or not. Adam, we're getting a DLC for Steelrising launching on November 10th. This is
I wonder if my files works now that they
it's busted. I forgot that your pre-release file was busted. You're obligated to cover Cagliostro's secrets. How do you pronounce that?
Cagliostro.
I can't
G
speak
is
Italian.
like silent.
Okay. So yeah, story DLC for Steelrising. I suppose we'll see if we follow up on that.
Yeah, it sounds like
I
the
don't know,
game itself is like separated into sections. So it kind of just like it feels basically like we left one of these sections out for DLC. So it's just gonna be like another
which is the worst.
zone.
Which is the worst sort of DLC, where it's just like here's something that is just segmented away that could have been its own thing. We don't do anything interesting with it, but here it is. It's more of the same. But I guess I'll say that's my impression. I don't know if that's true. We're getting an update this December for Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, where they're adding the 4th region, Stia, S-T-I-A. I think me and Kite are the only two on the site that really keep up to date on Phantasy Star Online 2. The last
more
3
than most
regions,
outlets, so
that's true. All the other regions, they're just themed differently. One's a forest, one's a desert, one's frozen tundra. That's pretty much it. So I don't actually know what Stia is, but they haven't really done anything more interesting than that. I'll just leave it at that. If this actually ends up becoming something more interesting, then I'll follow up once it's out. They also did update that they're adding like personal housing of some sort at a very high level in next spring.
How are they doing
What are they
personal
calling?
housing in that game? Is it like do you know like if it's like a persistent throughout the world, or is it like
No, it's they're in Phantasy Star Online 2, the base game, which takes place all on a ship. That's literally why they call them Ship 1, Ship 2 for the servers.
Yeah.
You have like a personal quarters, which is completely instanced,
Okay.
100%, where you could get like different like mini games and everything put in there and things like that. And it sounds like they're calling it in Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis the creative space, which it seems like it's just a new way to have customizable personnel and alliance quarters. So basically your guild hall or whatever equivalent, but I'm expecting it to be completely instanced, where you'll select it from a menu and then you'll be able to decorate or theme it or things like that, which is still something, but it's just kind of like Phantasy Star Online 2 already had this, so this is basically just the announcement that they're going to have an equivalent feature in the New Genesis release.
It's like New Genesis is so weird because like a lot of its updates is like they're just kind of following the timeline of PSO2 to a certain extent of like content updates.
Yep, they're even doing the same thing with like the class announcements. Like they recently announced the Waker, which is basically their version of the I'm blanking what the class was, the pet class in Phantasy Star Online 2.
Summoner
It's slightly different.
Yeah.
Summoner, that's it. Yeah, it's slightly different, but it's thematically the same. One thing that they did pretty well is a couple months ago they released a new gameplay mode called the Geometric Labyrinth, but it basically died on release because it didn't have matchmaking. You had to go with pre-planned parties. Which if you're in an alliance, maybe you can do, but if you're mostly a solo player, we're like, well, damn, like I guess I can shout in map chat if anyone wants to join me, but now that the content's old, that's good luck with that. They also added something new recently called the Ordinal Tower, which the name of it doesn't really matter, but hey, they added matchmaking now, so it's like I guess they are learning from their experiences, but I don't know if it just matters. So yeah, I won't linger on this too long. I will play through this, but.
So this game recently, like, it has cross-platform between PC, Xbox, and PlayStation now. It does, I guess, right?
I think it does. Yeah.
Have you seen like the population like grow since its PlayStation release?
I don't have enough like a point of view to know if it's grown or not, but I just will say every time I'm in any of the game's like hub areas, I see plenty of players, so it seems like it's doing fine, at least from a very casual perspective, but can't really judge whether they're seeing what the return that they wanted to see on a recent PlayStation release and things like that. I think the main weakness for New Genesis is that it's so combat focused, and that's it. Everything is just a new reason to go. Like it's basically Final Fantasy 14, I've played enough of, which is very little, to understand how the Fates system works, which is basically just going to an area that's marked on the map, fighting some enemies at a very high level. Maybe it's changed in recent Final Fantasy 14 updates. And it's fine for like a diversion, but it's not something that can really carry a game in an interesting way. And that's what New Genesis is basically Fates over and over and over and over. It's basically just going to a region on the map and fighting a bunch of enemies, and going to a region on the map, fighting a bunch of enemies. And sometimes you can extract a little bit more fun out of it by changing up your classes or whatever, but it just doesn't have any more meat to the bones. It's just fast food in a way. I still play it, so I must find something decent about it that I keep logging in, but or maybe I'm just hoping that it gets better. But it just hasn't, unfortunately, I don't think. Continuing into releases, we did get a release date for Wolong Fallen Dynasty.
I'm glad this one is. Well, I said earlier in a podcast, like, don't put any more games in February. And they're like, okay, we won't.
We'll put
barely.
it March 3rd. Yeah, so Wolong Fallen Dynasty, this is the new action game from the team behind Neo. Had the limited time demo a few weeks back, or a month back or so, that Josh and James both gave their feedback on. Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo have announced that it is launching on March 3rd, 2023. So yeah, it's like, hooray, it's in March, but it's still like within the first 10 weeks of the year. So it's still a very, very packed time of the year.
March of 2023 begins soon. May God help us all.
I'm off the top of my head, in February and January and whatnot, we have Fire Emblem, we have Forspoken, we have Octopath Traveler, we have Wolong. I know there's Atelier 3. I know there's another February release. What am I forgetting?
Wild Hearts?
Galleria.
Oh yeah, Labyrinth of Galleria.
And Wild Hearts, yes.
Like a
Hearts.
Dragon Edition.
Oh yeah, like Dragon.
Goddamn.
Yeah,
A couple of those games will be delayed out. Maybe would they? I don't know.
I don't know. Everyone likes February these days, dude. Remember that February a few years back with Nier, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, because of the Switch launch.
Oh yeah, Theatrhythm as well. And that's just RPGs, because there's also like the newest Destiny 2 expansion.
I know Trails of
Kirby's-
Azure is March, a little
Yeah.
later.
No. Oh yeah. Oh god. Well, you know. Yeah.
Well, luckily, Adam, you're the only one that needs to play that.
Yeah.
Adam, you got 3 games to play before next summer, before Reverie. Are you going to do it?
I'm just gonna jump into it.
There you go.
You'll just do it.
Just do it. Just fuck it. I agree.
You'll just watch you'll just pull a chow and watch the YouTube synopsis.
No, just go into it blind. Who cares?
Okay.
Fuck story. Skip all the cutscenes. Play the gameplay.
Just like in Forspoken and in Star Ocean 4.
Yep. Just like.
I mean, what Adam told me back in Star Ocean 5, just don't even watch a story. That tells you a lot.
But yeah, I mean, sure. And then they also released the demo feedback that they got from Wolong, and a list of changes that they're gonna make for the final release. You know, obviously the ones that are needed, like kind of tweaking the lock-on targeting system to make it more tight and function properly. A funny one that I saw was like when you fall into a pit in that game, it won't immediately kill you. It'll just like spawn you back to a nearby platform and taking off a bit of your HP for that. I'm like, okay, I guess. I thought it was just like by design. You didn't have to change that in my opinion, but I get it. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Wolong, it was a blast in its demo, and if they continue on the right path, then it's going to be something special.
Now, a game that we've talked about in a couple places, back when it was announced in a Japanese Nintendo Direct back in February, is a game from Marvelous called Loop 8. And I'm having difficulty parsing. Was this game ever officially announced for the West? Oh yeah, it was back in
yes,
September
it
or so, a month
was.
ago or so.
It took a while though.
It's funny
Gotcha.
because the very moment they announced this, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, this is getting localized." The reason it was getting an Xbox version in Japan.
Yeah.
Is that what gives it away?
Yes.
Yeah, so it is releasing. So I'm looking back at some of our older headlines. We got the announcement that it is releasing in the West in spring 2023 for Switch, Xbox, PlayStation 4, and PC. The news from this week is that we got a release date for Japan. It is releasing on March 16th. The PC version is releasing on the 21st. And even though it's not officially official, Adam, you think that the PC version, the fact that that's launching on the 21st, you're surmising that means
No,
that's you believe
The
that's still
Japanese
Destiny?
press release literally says the PC version is being released by Xseed Games on March 21st. Like,
Yeah,
they
the
say
Japanese press
Xseed.
release. Yeah, the Japanese press release basically like announced it on their end, and then but Xseed
Xseed
themselves
actually hasn't said anything.
Yeah,
So-
it's very weird and bizarre that like Xseed actually hasn't like commented on it. Like I thought it was like one of those things like, oh, they'll just like announce it the next day because of time
yeah,
zone.
because of timing, right?
Yeah, because
Nope.
of this came out like during night for us, and then just like it's been like over a week, and like Xseed's like, oh, sure, I guess. So there's still no Steam page for it up, but the Marvelous Japan has said this will be coming out on March 21st on Steam, handled by Xseed Games. So it stands to reason that's also going to be the release date in the West.
Unless Xseed does a weird like, we will publish the game on PC, but it's going to be Japanese only, and then we'll patch in English later. I mean,
Thanks,
holy
Nikita.
dude, if they do that, that just becomes a trend. I don't know. I'm gonna fucking lose. That's
They're
just weird.
probably. I'm gonna make a prediction here. Within a year, NIS America is gonna do that for the Japanese version of Kuro 1 on PC.
I could see
Gonna
it. Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. I mean, if that makes the production pipeline easier for them, sure, that makes sense. It's just weird. I would have to assume also, like, I guess we're kind of like, if you're gonna distribute it like that, obviously this doesn't relate to Loop 8 because they're not probably gonna release it like that. But when they release the English patch for Nayuta, will that come back up to the Steam's front page when they do that? Which is
I don't know about that. I have a buddy of mine that ended up working for NIS America, and I asked him, so what's going to happen with that? Is it going to, because it's going to be an update, so like for review codes, would you just have a separate branch? So even though the translation's finished, and he was like, I don't know, I think we need to talk about that. I don't think they know yet.
Yeah, because being on the Steam's front page makes a gigantic, humongous difference for like potential sales. For example, just this past week, Relayer Advance stealthily came out on Steam and didn't get onto the front page for whatever reason, and the initial sales for that game have been abysmal, I guess. But that's only breaking off of like Steam charts, Steam DB type numbers, So it obviously doesn't tell the whole story, but not being on the Steam front page when you release is it'll impact sales, obviously, because getting burned out on that is not easy. So we'll see. I don't know.
I'm going to Steam charts for Relayer Advanced and seeing.
Is it better than Neo the World Ends?
It's absolutely better than Neo the World Ends Video.
that was a crater.
Relayer Advanced, 19 in-game now. All-time
Oof.
peak 46. Holy shit, I'm going to
Oh.
try something. Legend of Nayuta.
Yeah.
You.
Hold on. You were roboting a
What
little
to do is
bit.
better than that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. What did you say though?
What was the max current count?
46.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Very bad.
Yeah.
It's like the dev team, like playing their own game.
This is the beta testers.
So yeah, I just don't understand like how you don't get it to the front page. You should try to at least push for that at the very least, because it's so hard like getting eyes on it if you're not on that front page. But yeah, they showed another trailer for Loop 8 when they announced like the Japanese release date. The second trailer that has a lot more gameplay footage. It's still shaping up to be pretty interesting. Like I really, really want to play this game. It looks like my type of jam. So
Another March release.
Yeah, your typical like selectable dialogue choices to characters, a little bit of combat gameplay. Like I like the 2D portraits, like in when you're interacting with them. I don't know yet about the 3D portraits because sometimes they're okay and sometimes they're they look kind of off. I wonder how it'll shape up when you're actually playing it though. Hopefully it's cool. I want to check out this game.
Here's something that's a little bit out of nowhere, but I believe it came out of the Fallout 25th anniversary news. So over the last couple of weeks, the Fallout series has been celebrating its 25th anniversary in a lot of different ways, and not culminating in any major game related announcements, but just some crossovers and some merch and things like that. However, we did get an announcement that Fallout 4, we'll be getting a next-gen update next year in 2023 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and then some of these updates will be incorporated into the PC release as well. So not a lot of details other than that. It just says prepare for the future. These are including performance mode features, higher frame rates, quality, 4K resolution, things like that. So it basically, if you haven't played Fallout 4 yet, next gen version coming next year.
And it also includes an update to the PC version.
Yeah. Brian, how do you feel about like all these recent games, like, you know, also getting the prioritized image quality, prioritized frame rate like options on PC without any like clear indication of what it affects?
I'm okay with them being like sets. Like I forget, like if you're in a settings menu and you want to choose like a preset, but then show me what that preset does. Like, oh, if I set prioritize frame rate and it turns shadow quality to low, that makes sense. Like I kind of want to see that. I don't want to just pick blindly, I suppose.
Yeah.
Shout out to
I kind of like
Capcom, who in their graphics settings menu will show you like in a preview window exactly what the options will change.
Right.
It's also something that
Durante
Durante's team does really well on his PC ports. Is in his little config menu, he says, "Hey, you want to turn on this ambient occlusion feature? Well, this is what it looks like in game." And a lot of games don't have that. So
yeah,
shout out there.
I kind of wish this was like more standardized and a more widespread practice, because I think it makes sense to like just be as transparent as possible with that kind of stuff, like just kind of showing players like what it looks like. So yeah, that's why I was only reminded because like when you first boot up Star Ocean, the Divine Force on PC, it like has that prioritized frame rate, prioritized image quality. I was like, oh yeah, those options that are on these current gen consoles are now also more prevalent in games now on PC as well.
Well, for me, like I'm the sort of person that like I picked one, and then I just, when I did with any PC game, I immediately went into the settings menu and just looked at it, like, and poked at it. But I suppose if you just want it to run and you just want to set it and go, it's valuable just to say, okay, prioritize frame rate. Okay, let's go. If
I guess it makes sense for like consoles, but like for PC, like that's not always like the full picture, right? Because on consoles, like that will do something different. Like if you do prioritize image quality, like then you're getting the 30 FPS cap on consoles. But if you say prioritize image quality on PC, that doesn't put it on a 30 FPS cap. You can still bump it up to 60 on PC.
But it just lowers some other settings that you assume that they curated for you or something. So yeah. For me, I just kind of, I made a selection and ignored it, went back into the settings menu and just looked at what the options were.
Yeah. So yeah, I just as long as I do prioritize image quality, I go into the settings options, and as long as it's like it is running at least at 60 FPS on PC, like I'm genuinely fine. There's no like arbitrary 30 FPS cap that like by selecting one of those options will incur or something.
And then next year we are getting a new Wizardry title, Wizardry Variant. Yeah, so the title is called Wizardry Variants Daphne. Is a free-to-play mobile RPG set to release in 2023, and pre-registration is now available on the official website, and there's an official Twitter account. I've not played a Wizardry game, but the fact that a Wizardry game has pre-registration just reads weird to me. Am I alone in that, or is that just the world we live in now?
There's a couple of weird things about this game. Yeah. One, it has like there's actually like a trailer from like a year ago or maybe like 18 months ago that shows like more like 3D models and cutscenes and like animations, and I'm like, this doesn't look like Wizardry to me. Wizardry is static portraits and like just little effects. But yeah, like I don't know how you make a Wizardry game free to play.
I have no idea how this is going to work either. It's kind of, I don't know how you monetize this.
Yeah, it's like I guess you could do like characters, but is there a dungeon crawling free to play mobile game somewhere like this? I don't know.
I'm sure there is, but I don't know exactly how they monetize it.
I mean, I can like sort of imagine it, like, oh, you can roll for a cool character that has good skills, or
maybe it's like characters, or maybe
something. But it's
you
just
roll
like
for items.
I don't think I try to think of a free to play mobile dungeon crawler. Like nothing comes to mind.
Okay, Brian, you don't know if Wizardry is for you. I have 4 important questions. They're just yes or no questions. Okay, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Do you like grinding enemies over and over, hoping for a 1% quest item to drop?
I played Final Fantasy 12. Hell no.
Do you enjoy having your party one-shot due to unlucky RNG?
Nope.
You enjoy going back and forth between two tiles, hoping against hope that one of the enemies will drop a map for the next section.
Nope.
Trying to
You-
remember how
Hey, there's a fourth
maps
question.
worked. Oh, fine.
Do you enjoy? Do you enjoy making your own maps of pen and with pen and grid paper?
I like the idea of it, but I don't know if I was actually forced to in practice if I would actually enjoy it. It's one of those things like, oh, that could be fun, but I don't know how fun it would actually be. So that's a maybe.
If you answered yes to these, then you will love this game. If you don't, then you'll find it terrible and tedious.
I'm trying to remember. I played Wizardry Labyrinth of Lost Souls, which was like a PS2 game that got a random PC port like 3 years ago. And I remember something about the maps in that one like irritated me. I just can't remember specifically what it was. If it was like a drop or something.
I forgot that was like PS2 or PS3 because I know there's
maybe
also
it was
Wizardry PS3. Yeah, but yeah, these games are they're very brutal dungeon crawlers. It's like they're definitely old school. And I mean, up to this point, I don't know how Variants Daphne is gonna be, but
What does that
Wizardry
title even mean? Also,
I don't fucking know. But they don't really compromise when it comes to their like old school like design, gameplay design. But I don't know how this one's gonna go because this one's a weird one, being a free to play mobile game. But yeah, this one's. I mean, it's cool that Wizardry is back, especially with what was the 5 ordeals? Wizardry is
yeah, that one it got its update, right? So I
Yeah.
should play it.
Yeah, I should play it.
Yeah,
Well,
it released on
recently-
Steam a while ago, but then got its English patch. Is that what it was?
Yeah, they even have like an official manual, like on the Steam like guide page.
The
from, like,
Wizardry IP situation is weird though. Like I think Dracom, who is the publisher of this mobile game, they are the ones with the IP right now. And I remember like with this 5 Ordeals game, when it was first announced, they had to like almost like backtrack it or delay it because of the IP reasoning, and then they somehow must have worked something out. But it's weird.
Yep. So Wizardry Variants Daphne will release in 2023. There's a new official website, Twitter, teaser video, all that stuff. And that covers us for the news. So part of me feels like I should apologize for the fact that it was like a bit scattershot, but hey, we don't make that itinerary. But a little bit of all over the place. It was kind of fun to get some Western news out of CD Projekt and I suppose BioWare, even though we wish they had more to show. As we've been kind of venting about, it sounds like the first 3 months of next year are going to be completely packed. So thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please let us know on whether you're listening on Spotify or on our YouTube channel or on our any of the podcast services. Let us know. Give us a rating. Tell us what we're doing well. Let us know what we could be doing better on. All of the reviews that we talked about, Batora, Lost Haven, Asterigos, and Lost Eidolons are up on the site, as well as all of the news posts, including all the translation work done by Kite for the Disgaea 7 blog post. You can find RPG Site on all the social media platforms, primarily on Twitter. Just search for RPG Site, and you should be able to find us. We have a Discord room. Just do discord.gg/RPG site if you're interested in joining that. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the Tetracast. We might have more follow-up thoughts on Star Ocean: The Divine Force. Are there any early November releases that are that come into the window by next week? Or it might be a week after.
Harvestella is next Friday, so it'll have just released.
All right, so if anyone's on that day 0, day 1, we might have a look in on that, but it might not be until the next week where we get into things like Pokemon and Tactics Ogre and Pentiment that we have those games come up onto our radar. Look forward to those discussions, and thank you again so much for listening. Until you hear from us next time, stay safe, take care. We'll talk to you then.